its monthly business meeting, at which time we will vote on the applications. You may stay for the meeting and hear how the applications are decided, or you may leave following the hearing. The applicant and the town board will be sent a copy of tonight's decision. Any other person wishing to receive a copy of a decision can sign the sheet on the table at the front of the room. Those of you wishing immediate knowledge of the outcome of these proceedings may call the county zoning office tomorrow morning. The procedure we will follow for hearing each application is, after each application is read, the applicant, their agent, or representative will have the opportunity to present their application, followed by any questions or comments from the board. Then all correspondence will be read. Then others in favor will have a chance to speak. Anyone objecting will then have a chance to speak. I will then ask for a summary of the board's field observations and any staff comments. Finally, the applicant will be allowed a chance for a brief rebuttal if they wish. Anyone wishing to speak should use the microphone at the front of the room, state their name, and direct their comments to the board. I ask that all testimony be kept brief, no more than 5 minutes, and to the point. If you are testifying as a nearby landowner, please tell us where your property is located relative to the subject property. Tonight's hearing will be recorded, and the recordings will become part of the record. Comments that are based on hearsay or secondhand information, as well as slanderous or prejudicial remarks, will be ruled out of order. The board has not looked at the properties due to the blizzard, which we were going to do on Monday, but we do have a complete information of all the records, and the record will reflect those observations. Any person affected by an administrative decision of this board has 30 days from the filing of tonight's decision to make an appeal. Such appeals shall be heard by the Waushara County Circuit Court. Information is available from the Clerk of Court's office and qualified legal counsel. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty as to the legality of any construction commenced prior to the expiration of this 30-day period. I will now introduce the board. Two people over is John Benz, John Sirk, Larry Tim. To my immediate right is Amy Schultz. On the far end is Rusowski, Corp Counsel, and Todd Waller is the zoning administrator.
Mark,
Yes.
I think before we begin the hearings, we should have a discussion as to whether we should hold them tonight, since we did not visit the properties.
And Ruth, correct me if I'm wrong, I did check into this. Legislatively, we are not required to do on-sites. The on-sites are merely an opportunity for us to get together to go out and view the properties collectively, if so chosen. If we did decide to go out as a collective group, then there's the Open Laws Act that would apply. However, you also have the opportunity to go out and view the properties individually. Open Laws Acts would not be required. And then, you know, there's a lot of counties and cities that require staff to go out by themselves and do it. So it is not a legislative requirement.
May not be a requirement, but it was common practice here to do
Yes,
this.
understand.
I think we're not following the procedures that we've set up in the past. Also, by viewing the property, a lot of times you discover things that need to be corrected before a variance and that type of thing can be granted. And I really think that we should look at them before we make a decision.
I guess that would be an item of discussion that would be best brought up at the business meeting. I think we can still conduct the public hearing, but if we're not comfortable with making a decision, we could make a motion to table a particular application to a date when we can on-site it if we feel that that's imperative in order for us to make a decision. So unless anybody has any other comments, Ruth?
I have 5 seconds here. I'm trying to look at the ordinance.
Okay. You know, as Larry said, it's common practice for the Board of Adjustments to visit the property, but obviously we can't change Wisconsin weather, and with 14 to 21 inches of snow, it was impossible to do the on-sites on Monday.
There were color photos in two of the packets.
Yeah, the packets are fairly complete with color photos. If any board member is not comfortable with voting on the applications, we can certainly do that, but.
I think we also in our packets have information from the zoning folks that have gone out and initiated this, each project.
Every property has been.
So we should
visited
have enough information in our packet, I think. Right.
But we'll give Ruth a minute here, so.
Gotta go to my office and get my phone test.
I don't think a 30-day.
Do you want me, Ruth, I got mine right here. Zoning?
Pardon me, Larry?
I said, I don't think a 30-day delay, delay it another month, is going to affect property owners that much.
Well, we'll wait and see what the ordinance says. I'm not aware of any requirement. It's past practice that we've looked at the
Right.
properties.
Can we proceed with the public hearing end of this, Mark?
Well, I think we
Want to wait for Ruth to come
Let's
back?
give Ruth and Todd a couple minutes, and then we can proceed with the public hearing. So, if anybody has a good joke, now would be a really opportune
Mother
time.
Nature played the joke.
Microphone is open.
Had you done an on-site, all the flags would have not been visible, you wouldn't
Yeah.
have seen anything anyways.
Yep.
Non-conforming things you wouldn't have seen.
Who made that decision?
I thought that was a good idea.
He's taking a building, I'm taking Clancy Knowles, open the roofs. We will. He's out. Okay.
Congratulations on being reelected. Good for you.
How many times have you been reelected? Zala's packet.
As a matter of fact, I do right now. Well, that's Stafford. That was the one that came with our packet.
Yeah, okay, that's what I can't find in mine. Can I borrow that from you?
Sure.
Because it looks like I'm gonna be doing two of them.
Oh.
Larry said he will not do.
Doesn't want to do it, he doesn't have to.
So,
Jerry Lauer.
have you been given an assignment for attending Lake District Week? Do you know which one? You know when those take place?
I thought appointments were made.
That's what I thought.
At the last one board, your first come board. You have to check with Bob.
Thank you, sorry. So I looked at the Washera County ordinance, the statutes in the state of Wisconsin, 59.694, that create the Board of Adjustment, and the Board of Adjustment's rules and bylaws that was adopted by this entity. None of those things require that that on-site take place. But certainly that has been your past practice, and it would be up to you then to decide whether or not having that precludes you from making a decision and holding tonight's hearing.
We could hold tonight's hearing, and then if any committee member is not comfortable with making a decision, they can make that during the decision, correct?
Sure.
Okay. All right, with that, we'll call the public hearing to order. The Board of Adjustments has 3 variances to consider tonight. The first one is Robert Tazala. I knew I was going to get that wrong. New Berlin, Wisconsin, has made an application for a variance in accordance with Section 58-235, Parent B, Parent 5, Parent B of the Washera County Zoning Code to construct a 12 by 24 one-story addition on a full basement and an 8 by 12 sunroom on a crawl space, existing sunroom to be raised onto an existing single-family dwelling exceeding 25% of the allowed construction of a non-conforming dwelling. Non-conforming due to side lot setback in the RS-20 residential single-family zone within the Shoreland area. Location is a parcel of land known as Lot 20 of Spring Lake Estate Subdivision, Section 28, Township 18 North, Range 11 East, Town of Marion, Spring Lake, N823, Spring Lake Drive, Spring Lake Estates Drive. Would the applicant come forward, please? And for the record, would you state your name, please?
Robert Tazala.
And could you tell us a little bit about your project?
We've owned that property for about 28 years, and we've basically outgrown the size of it due to our family and our children and grandchildren. So what we'd like to do is put on an addition, which would include a dining room and an extra bedroom.
And then you're going to tear off the sun porch and replace it, I think?
Correct. It would look physically, it would look identical to what it looks like right now, and it would be coming out 12 inches, 12 feet, I'm sorry, towards the road, not on the lakeside. And the variance part of it, actually the house sits on the lot crooked. It's on an angle, so it's too close by about 2 feet on the side, which has no bearing actually on the addition.
And that's all showing on the map. here.
Correct.
And when was that site plan done? Has the lot been surveyed?
Yes, there's a survey right there.
It says site sketch, but the dates were cut off, so I don't know when it was done.
It was done this winter in December.
Okay. And they found all the lot lines?
Yes.
The lot corners, I should say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there's the lot corners are stated on my copy here.
Yep. And you indicated the reason it's non-conforming is that one corner of the house is about 12 and a half feet from the lot line, right?
Correct,
Yep.
correct. Not, like I say, that won't have a bearing on the addition because of the way the house sits. And the other part of the variance would be the 25%, 720 square feet. We would like to add 288, which would be, we would be limited right now without a variance to 180 square feet. So we'll be going over by 108 square feet.
What kind of foundation are you going to have?
Steve Kemp Construction is going to do the job. So I don't know if that's been decided yet. It's either going to be block or poured concrete, whichever.
Crawl space, full basement, slab?
There'll be no crawl space. The sunroom actually sits on a slab.
Yeah.
He calls it a sand slab or something for drainage for the area, with footings below the frost line, obviously, and the rest will be a full basement.
It'll be the same level as the elevation of the existing house?
Correct.
Same elevation?
Correct.
And single story?
Yes.
Are you planning any other improvements?
Not at this time. Land conservation has been out with our builder and John Olson, I believe.
Yep.
And it was determined that there's a site plan as soon as, if and when the variance is approved, the site plan will be drawn up. He's been out there to look at it, and he's got a plan in mind.
It's not going to interfere with the septic system?
No, also the septic will be looked at and, I guess, certified or by the builder and his plumber.
Evaluated.
Yes.
Do you have any problems with erosion or stormwater runoff now? Is the lot fairly level?
No, it's a big hill in the back, but not anywhere where this would take place. That's why John Olson came out to look at it, and there will be some changes because of the impervious surfaces to make up the difference of the roof size of the new addition. We'll be taking drainage from the existing garage and moving it to the front into some, I believe he's going to put a couple of dry wells in. So that would make up the difference between, the additional square footage for the roof size.
Okay. And are there any other non-conforming structures on the property now? What do you have down on the lake shore?
There is an existing boathouse that was there when we bought the property.
But it's just a boathouse?
Yes. Yes, we use it for just storage for.
Do you know what permits you need if you get an approval tonight?
I personally don't know what permits. Steve
Builder's gonna pull
Steve
them?
would pull the permits. Yes.
The board have any other questions of the applicant?
I was glad to see that you're gonna have land conservation take a look at the foliage and vegetation, et cetera, and
Right.
you're close to the lake there, right?
Correct. He did come out and look at it, and like I say, he has a site plan, something in mind already that will be drawn up.
Is the new addition, is that on level ground?
Yes. Yes.
So the break on the hill down to the lake is,
That's not affected. It's out towards the road, which is level.
okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions of the board? If none, any correspondence on the application?
We've received no correspondence.
Anyone registered to speak in favor?
No, sir.
Anyone registered in opposition?
Nope.
Speak for information only?
Nope.
Okay, staff comments?
All right. In summary, the applicant,
You
Robert.
can have a chair if you
Okay,
want.
thank you.
All right. In summary, the applicant, Robert Tazala, is seeking a variance to construct a room addition and as well as a sunroom, which would force the home to exceed the 25% total building footprint expansion to a non-conforming dwelling in an RS-20 single-family residential zoning district. As stated by the applicant, the original home was built on an approximate 63-foot wide lot, with the northeast corner of the home being situated only 12.6 feet away from the side lot line, with the house being skewed away from the lot line, with the northeast corner being set back 15.6 feet. With the addition, the proposed 20 by 24 addition would then be set back an additional 16.7 feet, far in excess of the 15-foot required. We did do some impervious surface calculations on the home, and it was determined that the home would, and that all of the accessory structures and pavement would be approximately 18%. Anything between 15 and 30% would require mitigation, and the landowner is working with the land conservation staff, and that is a condition, should this be approved, that he would have to receive that prior to a land use and building permit. As you are aware, variances seek a relaxation of a dimensional standard in the code, and it's up to the applicant to provide the justification that would warrant such a variance. There are three basic standards: that the code is unnecessarily burdensome to the landowner, is not able to enact a permitted use without a relaxation of the dimensional standard. Number two, that there are unique limitations on the property that would prevent the landowner from meeting the required dimensional standard. And number three, if the variance is granted, no harm will be done to the public interest of the zoning code. And it's the applicant's responsibility to present his case and to provide the burden of proof. Staff has reviewed all of the applicant's information and documentation submitted. We do believe that while he will be exceeding the maximum allowable 25% of the building footprint, the variance should in no way negatively impact surrounding land uses or the general public due to the orientation of the existing home. The extent of the addition is being minimized, with the existing sunroom being replaced, and the fact that the landowner has agreed to work with staff to mitigate potential stormwater runoff. We therefore are recommending approval of the variance to construct a 12 by 24 one-story addition on a full basement and an 8 by 12 sunroom onto an existing single-family dwelling exceeding the 25% total building footprint expansion to a non-conforming dwelling in an RS-20 single-family residential zoning district within the shoreland area, subject to the conditions listed in your report.
Okay, does the applicant have anything further to add? If not, we'll go on to the second variance application. Yes.
The map on the fourth page of our packet showing the lot, outline of the lot, doesn't include the garage for some reason, like it does on the next page, which is the site plan. I'm wondering why.
Which,
The colored map, the 14 in the packet.
this one?
Yes.
And what is your question?
The outline of the lot doesn't include the garage.
I think the outline
And
of
yet
the,
it does on the next page,
I
so.
think the outline of the lot is wrong. This should go out to the road.
Yeah.
But this is a map from the county, isn't it?
Correct, but if you'll notice the way that the street is, it is positioned, and I think John is correct, is that the lot lines are not, it's an overlay within the district, or within the computer. And, I mean, Kyle, those sometimes aren't.
It's not a survey.
Yeah, those aren't exactly accurate.
Aren't always accurate with how the layout of the land. Some areas of the county are good and some areas aren't that, that's why we ask for a survey for these kind of things.
He's correct, that's all we're worried about.
I would suggest that you ask
It's,
Mr. Newton to correct it then.
we're in the process of doing that.
Easier said than done. There's a lot of parcels that he's working on. It is one of his top priorities to
Yep.
correct it all.
Okay, we'll ask the staff to note and let the IT people know the problem, and we can correct those maps when they,
You've got a disclaimer on the GIS that says it's just a representation of how the parcels are related to each other, and you should not be using it as a survey.
Okay, we'll go on to the second variance application. James and Diane Philbin, Northbrook, Illinois, have made an application for a variance in accordance with section 58-235, parent 45B, and 58-903, parent Q of the Waushara County zoning code to construct an 18 by 36 single-story addition with an 18 by 6 covered porch with crawl space on the west side, repitch an 8 by 14 portion of the existing roof, enclose a 14 by 6 portion of an existing open deck, and interior alterations to an existing non-conforming single-family dwelling, non-conforming due to side lot setback in the RS-20 residential single-family zone within the Shoreland area. A parcel of land known as lots 1 and 2 of Gilbert Lake Manor, section 15, township 20 north, range 11 east, town of Springwater, Gilbert Lake, W 5706 south, Gilbert Lake Road. Is the applicant present? Would you come forward, please? And for the record, state your name, please, if you would.
James Philbin.
Okay. Okay, can you tell us a little bit about your project?
And we also are, we have a small cottage currently, and we're looking to expand, add a little more space to it, and we're proposing to add a 18 by 36 addition to it, to the side, to the opposite side of our current setback issue, which we'll get clear in a second, and then add a new porch in front of that, and as well fix some of the existing problems. We have a flat roof that is not pitched properly, so some changes to actually improve the overall roof of the house as well.
And again, similar to the other application, you're non-conforming due to the proximity of the side lot line, but the addition is going on the other side of the home, correct?
Correct. On the east side of our house is a public access lot, so there's
Yep.
about a 50-foot lot on the one side. That's where we're actually close to that one. And on the west side, which is where we're proposing to do the addition, there's about 60 feet currently from our house to the lot line.
Is that an improved or unimproved public access?
Unimproved.
Unimproved. So there isn't vehicular traffic there?
Correct.
Okay.
It's not paved, is it?
No, it's just natural.
That would obviously be more of an issue if there was traffic next door, but there isn't.
There's no traffic. In fact, I also talked to Everett Eckstein,
Yep.
And he's basically given me his approval that what we're doing meets his approval.
And according to my notes, it looks like you had a plat of survey done in 2012, is that correct?
Probably one, actually,
2001?
when we bought the property, yeah.
Okay. So you know where all the lot lines are. And you stated why it's non-conforming. Have there been previous additions done to the property over the years?
Right when we bought the property, we actually fixed a porch that was there, a bedroom that was there, all sinking. So, but kind of on the same footprint that was there.
And how are you planning on dealing with erosion, stormwater? Is it level, steep? Is there erosion now, or do you think there will be after the construction?
So we're actually expanding on a level surface, right? And I think kind of what happens is we have gutters now and actually flow into our driveway. So we think actually spreading it out a little bit will actually spread the water out a little further. We're up high off the lake as well.
There's no steep slopes where the addition's going? It's
No,
relatively
it's
flat?
relatively flat.
Okay. What type of foundation is this going to be?
We're actually, the property is actually raised up a little bit just by grade. So it actually, almost the first 3 feet are above ground anyhow. So because of the crawl space requirement, I guess, we're going to do a basement below, a full basement, just because it's actually very close to what would be required by the, and then under the porch, the porch in front of that would be just a crawl space.
Would it be you said a full basement, would it be a walkout basement?
No.
No.
It can't, yeah, no, it wouldn't. It actually, we just have to attach it to our other one.
And the addition will be the same elevation grade as the existing home?
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, there's an original structure. It'll follow the same roof line as the original house.
Single
Same-
story?
Single story.
Yep. Are you planning any other improvements in the near future that you're aware of?
No, it was a kind of a surprise that we had a non-conforming house, right, as we started this project. Didn't know that, and I realized we couldn't do anything, which is really it's the first starting point. So we stopped on everything until we figured out if this is possible or not.
And have you had a recent evaluation of the septic system? There was one in here, but looks like it was from like the 90s or so.
Yeah, I work with Kyle on this, and we
Yep.
think it's an older system. So if we need to expand it or relocate it, we'll do that.
Very good. What sort of structures do you have down on the shoreline?
We have a boathouse.
Boathouse. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. And did you mention who your builder is, or?
I haven't
Okay.
decided yet. Like I said, we started this and then realized I couldn't go very far until.
But you're aware you'll need zoning and building permits, that
Yes, of
kind of
course.
thing? Okay.
And we'll have a builder do that.
Yep.
Submit it properly.
Okay. Any questions, any further questions from the board?
I have one on your drains off the roof. You said go out to the driveway. Can those, for some reason or other, can that water be turned around, not that we want it, and head towards the lake?
Well, so it can. So right now our driveway is kind of the lowest spot on our property.
Uh-huh.
Right. So what we're doing is expanding to the west,
Yes.
and I think that would allow us to have the gutters flow differently on a more of a level surface instead of it's a gravel driveway, so it does seep in, of course.
But the stormwater then coming off the roof would go towards the road and not towards the lake. That's what I'm getting at.
It probably would go both ways, right, based on the pitch. It could go one way.
So you're repitching the roof.
Well, so there's an addition that's going on, and
Right.
then in the front of the house, there's actually a very flat roof, so kind of an original simple cottage they added on flat roof. And it's really that's what's flat, and we're going to just pitch it up so that it drains properly, and we don't have ice damming and leaks.
Yeah, really.
Any other questions of the board? Hearing none, any correspondence on the application?
We have not received any correspondence.
Okay, anyone registered in favor or in opposition?
Nobody in opposition, nobody in favor, and nobody wishing to speak.
Okay, staff comments? You can have a chair, please. Thank you.
The applicants James and Diane Philbin are requesting a variance to exceed normal maintenance and repair of a non-conforming structure to allow construction of some building additions, the repitching of a roof, and also to enclose a 14-by-6 portion of an existing open deck, with also some interior alterations that will go on within the existing single-family dwelling. The original home was built approximately 1 foot off of the north property line on lot 1 of Gilbert Park Manor, immediately adjacent to a 50-foot wide lot designated as public access way owned by the town of Springwater. The lot has since been expanded to include Lot 2 to the south, and the home has since undergone a number of additions and alterations. And I apologize. As you're aware, we recently modified our non-conforming uses and structure code that basically states that an existing principal structure that was lawfully placed when constructed, but is less than 1/2 of any required setback, an existing structure may be maintained, renovated, rebuilt, remodeled, and repaired within its existing building envelope. This request would go beyond that provision. Now, similar to the previous variance request, it's obviously up to the applicant to provide the justification that would warrant the need for, or to warrant the approvals. The applicants have indicated that the existing home is non-conforming due to the fact that it was built approximately 1 foot from the side lot line years ago, as it was originally positioned on a 50-foot wide lot. The home is also in need of repair given the age and construction methods used years ago, and they also cite unique features with the lot and that it's immediately adjacent to a public access way. Staff's reviewed the request, and while the proposed alterations and additions exceed the normal maintenance and repair, the variance request should in no way negatively impact surrounding land uses or the general public due to the unique setting of the home immediately adjacent to a public access way, and the fact that the additions would occur on the opposite side of the home away from the nominal setback. It should be pointed out that even with the alterations and additions, the total lot coverage and impervious surface calculations will only be at 13.7%, below our minimum threshold requiring mitigation. We are therefore recommending approval of the variance to exceed normal maintenance and repair to allow construction of the additions as well as the repitching of the roof, subject to the conditions listed in your report.
Okay, does the applicant have anything further to add at this time? If not, we will move on to the third and final variance application. Pleasant Waters LLC, Coloma, Wisconsin, has made an application for a variance in accordance with Section 58-542C2 of the Washera County Zoning Code to construct a 24 by 40 one-story single-family dwelling on a slab coming to within 10 feet of the westerly side lot line, existing single-family dwelling to be raised in the RS-20 residential single-family zone within the shoreland area. A parcel of land located in Government Lot 4, known as Lot 1 of CSM 5585, Section 33, Township 18 North, Range 8 East, Town of Coloma, Pleasant Lake, W 13474, Check Lane. Francie, for the record, will you state your name?
I'm Francie Rowe.
And you are the owner of the property?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Could you also summarize briefly what you're planning on doing?
Yes, I purchased this house this past summer, June 30th, with the intent of remodeling it. However, after I was able to get inside and started looking at what I had bought, I realized that it was in pretty bad shape. So we have already tried to do some cleaning, taken out old cabinets, other parts that the bathroom that was in bad shape. And after looking at it seriously, I realized that I think I would be better off to raise the building as Mark just described and start out with new construction. There's multiple problems with it with regard to code. It's too close to the lot line. The well is too close to the house. Mechanicals are in terrible shape. So I think overall it would be in the best interest to simply start over. And the project, per the application, seeks to improve the building with regard to the codes, the setbacks. Clearly it would bring the plumbing and electric and heating up to code and so forth.
Are you planning on a new septic then, or?
No, the septic, Kirshner's inspected the septic when I bought it, and they gave it the A-OK. It did have to have some work. That initial inspection, it failed. But the pipe between the tank and the drain field was replaced, and upon the second round of inspection, they gave it the plus.
And that was done in 2017, I believe?
It was in June. Yeah, it was right before the purchase, which was June 30th.
Septic was put in, I think, according to our records, 1982, but it was evaluated last year.
Yes.
Okay. And the survey, 2006?
Yes, I have the map here.
We have a copy of the
Yeah.
certified survey map.
Yes.
So you know where all the lot lines are?
I do.
You talked to the neighbors in the township about this project?
I did not talk to the neighbors. Both of them are not full-time residents. They're summer residents. I did go to the town meeting, and the Lake District also has, I believe, weighed in. And as far as I know, everyone is A-OK.
And what type of foundation will this be, a basement?
I initially was planning on a basement, but upon looking at the financial, and it's a small space here, 880 feet, I've decided to go with a slab. And part of that is because I think I'd like to do the in-floor heating.
Okay.
So that made a slab an attractive option.
So are you going to haul a lot of fill in there, or is it going to be close to ground level?
I would hope not to bring in fill, but in all honesty, if you look at those pictures I submitted, you can see there's a problem at the back of the house. It's way too close to grade. So I will have to reconstruct the landscape there a little bit to make it level, to put a slab in. And I hope that does not mean that I have to bring in fill, but I might have to bring a little in.
Are you concerned about runoff or erosion? How are you going to deal with that?
It's pretty flat lot. It's quite flat between Check Lane and Check Drive. The really only pitch to the lot is, as you can see on that picture of the house, where it's about 14 inches, I think. It's 2 steps up in the front.
I can't picture the exact lot. I've been on most of them, but
Yes.
most of them are quite flat, and then right next to the lake it drops off pretty
Correct.
steep, and that's
Yep.
pretty typical.
That whole section there that it shows on the certified survey map is pretty flat.
Yep.
Are both those streets paved?
Yes. Well, they have, like the gravel and oil kind of, you call that paved.
And I know there's a garage there,
There is.
and that's the only other improvements on the
Yes,
property.
and I do not intend to raise that garage. That's in much better shape than the house.
It's in good shape. Okay. And there is a shed there right on the lot line, but that looks like it's your neighbor's, huh?
Correct.
Maybe a little over, perhaps?
It's directly on the lot line.
Okay.
As you say, if anything, it's sneaking to my side.
And it looks like, obviously, you mentioned this is going to be further from the lot line than the existing one. Do you have a builder lined up yet?
I haven't. I'm still in the process of seeking a builder.
You're aware of the permits you'll need if the variance is approved?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just look at my notes. I don't have any other questions. Does the board have any other questions?
Maybe I missed it, but Francie, is there a basement under the present structure?
Yes and no. And what I mean by that is those houses were all built in rectangles, and there is and since then there's been a porch added to the front, and where the old kitchen was added to the back. That back kitchen is on a slab, the porch is on a slab, but there is a trap door under the living room that goes to a small space that is maybe 5 by 8 feet, and in that space is the water heater, which is totally inaccessible. Hence, this is one of the reasons I think it needs to go and be improved to code. So there is, you can get down there, but it's not a pleasant journey. Pardon me?
You can't get back up.
That's a concern.
I didn't ask this of the other applicants because they weren't changing the location of the home, but you're not doing any changes to the driveway at all,
I
the
do not.
location?
Yeah,
Gonna
we'll
stay the
probably
same.
have to snug up a little bit closer to that eastern lot line because I'm moving the house over to get away from too close to the western lot line. But I don't plan to really change it in
Sure.
any way.
Okay. Any other questions of the board?
I don't have any.
All right. Thank you, Francie. You can have a chair. Any correspondence on the application?
Yes, staff received a letter from the Pleasant Lake Management District back on April 9th indicating, quote unquote, that they have no comments with regard to the variance.
Okay. That's all the correspondence?
Yes.
Anyone registered in favor or opposition for information?
Nope.
Okay. Staff comments?
Okay. The applicant, Francis Rowe, is presently requesting a variance to construct a 22 by 40 single-family dwelling onto a slab to come within 10 foot of the westerly side lot line when 15 foot by code is normally required. The original home was built 1 foot off the west property line on a 50-foot wide lot as part of the Pleasant Lake Summer Resort subdivision. If you were to look at an aerial, you would note that almost every single lot there, the homes were built right up adjacent to the property lines. When Francie originally came in, her original proposal was to have an 8-foot setback, and since it was a new home, I was trying to minimize the extent of the variance request. We had talked about possibly centrally locating it. Francis's concern, however, was that it would be too close to the person to the immediate east. So it was kind of a compromise here that we would get 10 foot, additional 2 feet in terms of a setback distance. With regard to the justification, the applicant has provided ample justification that would justify a variance. The applicant cites the fact that the existing non-conforming home is going to be raised. The request will eliminate numerous building code violations, minimize the extent of the variance, which is making a bad situation better. And obviously, constructing a slightly larger home, 880 square feet, would come closer, well, actually would meet current building code requirements. Staff has reviewed the applicant's request, and we are recommending approval of the variance to construct a 22 by 40 one-story single-family dwelling on a slab to come within 10 foot of the westerly side lot line.
Okay, does the applicant have anything further to add? No, okay, okay, thank you. If not, we will close Board of Adjustment, public hearing, planning and zoning will meet here. Any of the three variances or anyone that's interested in the variances can join us in the room next door where we will consider action on those three applications. Thank you.
Oh, we'll shut that off in a hurry.
Come up on this row now.
Oh, okay, let's stay back here.
We've got, did I give you, oh, here. I've got all of your descriptions. Because you should have, they should have been included, but for some reason they weren't. Yep, and then you. I don't.
Nothing I know of.
Oh.
Careful, there's a corner there.
Without that, I just smacked my head on the mic.
Mark must have sat in this. I guess you just write it out.
But you know I've got a rather lengthy letter, 3-page letter to read. For the Hammonds.
Good.
So, do you, can we have oh, here, you've got that right there.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Call the meeting to order. I will call this meeting of the Waushara County Planning and Zoning Committee to order. This meeting will begin with a public hearing. Anyone other than the applicant or their representative wishing to speak must register and submit the registration slip to the zoning administrator at this time, if you haven't already. Following the hearing, we will conduct our monthly business meeting, at which time we will vote on the applications. You may stay and hear how the applications are decided, or you may leave following the hearing. The applicant and town board will be sent a copy of tonight's decisions. Any other person wishing to receive a copy of a decision can sign the sheet on the table in front of the room. Those of you wishing immediate knowledge of the outcome of these proceedings may call the county zoning officer tomorrow morning. The procedure we will follow for hearings each application is: after each application is read, the applicant, their agent, or representative will be asked to present their application, followed by any questions or comments from the committee. Then all correspondence will be read. Then others in favor will have a chance to speak. Anyone objecting will then have a chance to speak. I will then ask for a summary of the committee's field observations and any staff comments. Finally, the applicant will be allowed a chance for a short rebuttal if they wish. Anyone wishing to speak should use the microphone, state their name, and direct their comments to the committee. I ask that all testimony be kept brief, no more than 5 minutes, and to the point. If you are testifying as a nearby landowner, please tell us where your property is located relative to the subject property. Tonight's hearing will be recorded, and the recording will become part of the record. Comments that are based on hearsay or secondhand information, as well as slanderous or those other kind of judicial remarks, will be ruled out of order. The committee has looked at all the properties, and the record will reflect these observations. Any person affected by an administrative decision of this committee has 10 days from the filing of tonight's decision to make an appeal to circuit court. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty as to the legality of any construction commenced prior to the expiration of this 10-day period. I will now introduce the committee. Carl Gazar, George Peterman, Pat King, Jerry Lauer. I'm Mike Kapp. You already met my best buddy over here. Okay. First thing on the agenda is, if I find it again. Thank you. I had one to start with. Is the public hearing applications, and the first application that we will be looking at is a conditional use by Corey Schroeder.
Oops, I think, were we going to do the Hammonds first? I mean, we do Hammond, Schroeder, it doesn't matter, but I mean, we can do Schroeder's too.
Okay.
You have your legal notices over there.
Yeah, I got the thing here.
Okay.
Okay, this is parcel number 012-00734-0000, municipality of Town of Hancock. Alternate parcel number 690-122-190-80-734-0000. Section 07, Town 19 North, Range 08 East. Property address is N4156 East Avenue, or First Avenue. The legal description is part of Southwest 1/4, Lot 3, CSM 5392. Made it through that one. All right. Now, I have it here. What are we looking for? There's too much paper out here.
Michelle Schroeder of Hancock, Wisconsin, have made an application for conditional use in accordance with Section 58-454, parentheses 35, of the Waushara County Zoning Code to place a used single-family dwelling in the AG General Agricultural Zone. Location, it's an approximate 40-acre parcel of land known as Lot 3 of CSM 5392, Section 7, T19 N T8E, Town of Hancock, N4156 First Avenue.
Ask if an applicant just come up.
Can you folks come to the microphone?
Hi, my name is Corey Schroeder, and this is my wife, Michelle Schroeder.
Okay, could you explain to us a little bit about what you're doing?
We're wanting to put, he had purchased the property in 2005 and wanting to put a house out there. We have been renting in town, so between the land payment and the rent, it's hard to save money to do that. So we were wanting to put the trailer out there and hence save money. And we we own both parcels on, and there's it's not visible from the road or any other neighbor or.
What type of unit were you planning on putting on it?
It's a 14 by 70 mobile home that we're wanting to put on it right now.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Is that going to be on a concrete slab or basement or?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out what's needed. We've heard a couple different requirements, so we wanted to have the meeting, and then we were told that because of the year that it is, it could just be on the bricks and then sided, or the trimming around the outside, or it could be on a rock.
Right, yep. Based upon the age of the unit, the UDC code will have specific requirements in terms of the foundation. Once again, it's based upon the age of the unit. It's also based upon the manufacturer's, recommendations. So when they come in for a land use permit, building permit, we'll get them together with John and make sure that they're completely aware of what all is needed.
You currently have a well and septic out there?
Yeah, well, something that was
And it's proper setback from where you plan on putting the home?
Yes. Yep.
Is this property going to be under any kind of forest management law at all due to the size of it and the length of it?
not currently at this time. Yeah, both the southern and northern side of that property.
Do you, how are you going to maintain the drive? It's kind of a lengthy drive.
Yeah.
We know about it.
Yeah.
Currently, I have a 1954 Ford tractor with a back blade on it. I use to clear the driveway and take out any ruts and, maintain it.
Okay, I have no further questions in regards to this. Thank you for your time.
Okay, going to be looking at the correspondence.
We have no correspondence.
Anyone in favor may speak if they wish.
We don't have anybody registered in favor, opposed, or just speaking for information.
Anyone to object?
Nope.
Anyone to speak for information only?
Nobody registered. Okay.
Staff comments?
Okay. The applicant, Corey Schroeder, is requesting approval of a conditional use to place a used single-family dwelling on the subject property located within an AG General Agricultural Zone. Applicant, back in 2005, had received both a land use permit and a POUTS permit, or sanitary permit, excuse me, for POUTS for a pole building. It was always envisioned at one point that a portion of the pole building was to be renovated for a future residence. However, that never materialized. In 2011 and 2012, the applicant was cited for using the pole barn as a place of residence without making the proper modifications and or alterations. The pole building was subsequently converted back to storage, and an accessory structure affidavit was filed with the county. While the applicant ultimately intends on building a new home, they are seeking to move the mobile home onto the site at this time. With regard to the on-sites, kind of a standing joke here, we did go out to do our on-sites, we were unable to access the property as I beached the Washera Industries vehicle down at the end of their roadway. So actually it was due to snow, we couldn't get there. But as you're aware, all defined zones have what are known as permitted uses, and we also have uses that are known as permitted uses subject to certain conditions, and that's what we have here tonight. Now, keep in mind that due to past legislation and code amendments in 2015, mobile homes were further legislated upon, and now they can no longer be treated differently than a single-family dwelling, nor have special restrictions placed upon them. Therefore, please consider this, that we must review this request the same as we would a used single-family home being located upon the premises. Staff has reviewed this request, and given the fact that the mobile home it must be now treated as a used single-family home, we believe the placement on the lot would be in keeping with the surrounding land uses and the property subject to specific conditions. It should be noted that the used home will be set back a considerable distance from the roadway and is significantly screened by vegetation around the periphery of the lot. We are therefore recommending approval of the conditional use request to place a used single-family dwelling subject to the conditions listed in the report that you have before you.
Is the rebuttal by the applicant, if applicable? If not, move to the next party. Too much paper up here.
We can go to the Hammonds.
It's a conditional use, and it's Norman Hammonds. Parcel number 036-03313-0610. Municipality is the town of Watoma. Alternate parcel number 690362191033130610. Section 33, Town 19 North, Range 10 East. Property address is W8606 County Road C. Legal description is part of east 186 feet of southwest northeast line north of County Highway C, being part of lots 4 and 5 CSM 2135. Now lot 1 CSM 2337.
Get your paper and read it.
Could you state your names?
I'm Dale Hammonds, my wife's Sue.
And I know we were out there and took a look at it. We did make it in that driveway.
Yeah.
And can you explain a little bit about how you're gonna operate and what you're doing?
We are an established breeding, training, and showing stable. This past winter, we constructed a new indoor arena to help facilitate our training possibilities. And so we would like to add to our business the possibility of having a limited number of boarders and to offer riding lessons. We would also like to use our indoor arena for small clinics and group lessons and possibly recreational evenings, a ladies' night perhaps for women involved in horses that want more exposure to horses. Maybe they don't have one of their own and they can come to our place and enjoy some camaraderie with other women and with horses thrown in the mix. We stand a stallion and we stand him to the public and maybe breed 2 to 3 outside mares a year. We raise 1 to 2 foals of our own a year. We raise, train, and show these Morgans and also sell them. We have sold horses as far as California, Massachusetts, Florida, Texas, and Wisconsin. So we're hoping to be able to, we have this facility now, so we're looking to make it help us pay for it.
You plan on having anyone come in and ride your horses or anything?
No, our horses will not be a rent for trail ride situation. That's, the liability insurance for that is too great. If we have someone come in and ride, it would be in an individual lesson situation where it's very controlled, where the horse would be in an enclosure and I would be in the enclosure with the rider, possibly with a line to the horse, so that safety is the ultimate goal and education of the rider.
Do you have enough stalls in the barn for all the horses that you may have, or lean-tos outside?
At this time we do. We have 10 stalls in the barn and they're full right now. We also have a small lean-to outside that house 2 horses.
Anybody else have any questions?
So how many horses would you be the max that you would board?
We would never have more than 20. Our facility wouldn't hold that many. We don't like, if we had more than that, we wouldn't be able to control how we care for them. We don't like housing horses in groups together because there's always one hog that will eat all the hay and then the one timid one that won't get enough to eat. And as far as labor, it's just too labor intensive to have that many horses.
So if you're going with 20 and you said you have room for 10 right now, 10 pens?
We have 10 stalls indoor. We have 2 in a lean-to. Actually, we have 2 yearlings in 1 stall, so we have 11 horses in the barn and 2 outside.
So would you kind of expect to add on maybe more stalls?
We can add a few more stalls in there if we have to.
You can.
But a lot of people don't want to pay the indoor, they call it rough boarding, and that means you keep them outside, you know. And that's what we're gonna do on the west side, we're gonna expand that, put fencing out there for the horses. And the east side's gonna be all hay. We're changing things around this year.
Also, if we needed to, we could bring in another lean-to.
They'll all have cover in the wintertime, you know. If they're out in the winter, they got blankets on, and they all got cover. You know, we got lean-tos, and we get more horses, we get more lean-tos.
We have a combined experience of 50 or more years with horses, so it's not like we're just a startup and amateurs at this. We have cared and raised and trained horses for many years.
She went to World Championship in 2014, and she got 3rd place with her stallion in the World Championship. So she's pretty good. You know.
Well, I had the opportunity yesterday to go through the facility at my leisure. and I did find it in really impeccable shape and condition and clean. And what they're trying to do, I think, is very humane to what they're doing as far as animal life is concerned. Now, you mentioned on the west side of the arena, is there going to be a lean-to there for the horses?
Every time we put a paddock out, there'll be a lean-to for them. So we figure we'll have to get at least 3 more.
Yeah.
That's our hay field
Maybe
now.
2.
And we're going to fence that in, and then on the east side there where we got all the horses, that's gonna be all hay out there now.
So, how much of the DNR property are you going to be using during the course of the year? Or no, okay.
Pretty marshy back in there. You can use a little bit, but we don't use none of it.
It's difficult. There's so many down trees back there, and then it's marshy, that it's really,
Horses get hurt back
really difficult to get through there. And then with the undergrowth and the brush, and unless you go ahead with a chainsaw, which is
Do you
not legal.
ever expect to expand your land usage that you have, or that might be available to you in the future?
Well, we was hoping to get on the other side, on the west side over there and buy some property over there, but I don't know if it's gonna go or not, But, we buy most of our hay. We just raise a little bit, but we buy most of our hay and the grain and all that,
So your hay, where do you buy your hay? Is it from local or is it from a distance?
No, local farmer,
Okay.
Carl Dietz.
Dredke.
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 So you have a pretty good
Oh, yeah.
hand, yeah, okay.
We go through a lot of hay.
We source all of our supplies locally, FS, and then we buy shavings from a local sawmill for the bedding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Could you just briefly describe what you anticipate for traffic flow in and out off of County Highway C, and how it would come into your property, how it would access County C, leaving the property?
Yeah, it's, well, you come in that road, we come in that road, and on the north side of the building, I cut down trees, and that's gonna be, if somebody comes in with a trailer, we're gonna have, so I get it cleaned up, I got it cleaned up yet. But they can park trailers in there, and they can turn around, and semis go in there and turn around, and we have stuff delivered, so it's no problem.
Do you have any idea, like, volume, how many, cars in and out, weekly, monthly, daily?
It just depends on how many shows we have, if we have,
Well, we're not going to have shows, but possibly clinics.
Clinics, yeah, and you might have 5 or 6 trailers in there, and they're
Yeah.
small ones, they're nothing
Per,
big,
per week, but we wouldn't have an event every week, maybe once a month, maybe once every other month. The lessons would be more regular, and those would occur probably on the weekends the most, and that would just be, a very minimal number, 2, 3, 4 trailers per weekend possibly. Some of them would just be cars coming in that the lesson person would ride one of our horses, so it wouldn't be a trailer at all.
Two questions. You're gonna have some customers there, so, what type of facilities are you gonna have as far as a bathroom?
We, at Wade Penno's there, we ordered a brand new porta
Porta
potty.
potty, yeah.
They're coming in May. He ordered 2 truckloads, he said, or something, and so he was gonna sell me a used one. I said, no, I'll just buy a new one, so that's what we're waiting on.
Okay, and then the second question is, horses will produce manure.
Yeah.
What do you plan to do with that?
We got on the west side over there is where we stockpile it, but it goes, everybody wants manure. I have no trouble getting rid of it. I put it on my fields, and then everybody else, it's, we have a pretty good pile right now because nobody can get in and spread it around yet, But I have them come in dump trucks and
People,
I give it away, I don't sell it, I give it away, so.
people want it for their gardens.
They want it for the gardens and for everything, you know. So I got plenty of it if anybody needs it.
And I noted too, you have a beautiful horse there. I was there.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
No other questions? Is there any correspondence?
There is. We've received 2 letters, one of which is from an adjoining landowner, and I apologize here for the length of this, but I'm going to read it into the record. It's from Timothy and Linda Freudenthal. Dear Zoning Committee, as real estate professionals here in Waushara County, we more than know the treasured value of whole fee ownership of owned lands and property. It is every landowner's right to enjoy and utilize these rights to the fullest extent as long as those rights and uses do not interrupt, disturb, or cause damage or harm or loss of value to adjoining and area landowners, and that the use is legal and in compliance with local, state, and federal regulations. With this being said, we will object to our neighbor's application for a conditional use permit on their land to house and board horses for others for the following reasons. Number 1, within the past 3 years, we have pointed out to Dale in person that the horses have been extending their territory through the loosely slatted fence and have destroyed over 40 young and full-size trees along the fence line. His reply was, quote unquote, "Is that so?" Per the photos in the following pages, this is more than evident that extensive damage has been done and is ongoing to our tree line, and that this destruction has been happening for over the past 6 years since the horses have been kept on the property. We sold some of the property, which is the topic of the conditional use permit, to Dale Hammonds. However, at the time of sale, we were told there would be no more than 2 to 3 horses. Currently, there are 7 horses on the property, which we presume boarding would increase this number. Number 2, when we sold the 1.75 acre parcel to Dale, the property or parcel had a drainage slope to the west and into a silting pond, which was dug to permit proper runoff from the dwelling and our pond, which is within 32 feet of the bordering property line. The Hammonds erected a large fence or horse facility and filled in the drainage without installing a culvert, which would have prevented the current standing water problem in the holding area and the house rear yard. A culvert would continue to prevent backwash from entering our pond and killing our fish and contaminating our water. Now our grandchildren can no longer swim in the pond. Hammonds recently erected another large horse arena facility, which now exacerbates the issue because there is over 10,000 square foot of roof runoff, which does not appear to have a drainage plan. This situation will add additional issues to the runoff of groundwater problems. Number 3, the Hammonds have erected a fence built out of treated wood and plastic strapping with a single but non-functional electric wire near the bottom. It has been observed over the years that the horses have been eating the treated wood fence, which may cause digestive and other problems due to formaldehyde and other preservatives. This could be a potentially hazardous to horses kept on the premises for fee-based boarding purposes. We have given this matter a significant amount of thought and discussions with our friends and other neighbors and feel that we would remove our objection to the application if, number 1, the Hammonds replace the existing fence with steel post 5-foot fence of 4x6 woven wire from the roadway to the rear northeast corner of the site, and with a single strand of electric along the top within 4 inches of the top of the wire mesh. Number 2, the Hammonds drain the low area in the yard to the west by installing a culvert under or along the existing horse facility to create a slope that allows flow from east to west in this low area. The Hammonds provide water tests on several sites on their property showing safe levels of nitrates and bacteria, and that no horse urine is entering the city of Wautoma groundwater aquifer. Number 3, the Hammonds replace the 40-plus destroyed trees along the fence at their expense, which are on or were on the Freudenthal side of the fence. Number 4, the Hammonds visit and talk about their plans with each neighbor affected and or notified by the proposed plans before this application is resubmitted or issued, because extended landowners may have some questions or concern, to include the city of Wautoma and DNR, and that letters of support be presented by each affected landowner as a sign of good neighbor policy. We feel that the issues stated and that the remedies for these issues are supported and necessary in order to have this proposed use operate in a friendly and safe manner for the protection of the property owner, adjoining owners, and the people who will be using their services. We thank you for your consideration in this manner, and we are willing to assist and give additional input support, and help in seeing that all of Waushara County citizens and neighbors have the opportunity to fully enjoy their full land rights and privileges. However, we do also feel that because there has been some disregard for their concern of my trees and fence line deterioration and pond, and because the applicants have been advertising a commercial boarding operation without county zoning approval, that a cease and desist be instated until these issues be addressed in a timely and satisfactory manner. Respectfully submitted, Tina and Linda Freudenthal. We've also received a letter from the city administrator, Tommy Bowler, from the city of Wautoma. After conversing with Amy Schultz, she clarified my concern on the water table issues regarding the horse training facility on County Road C. This is an agricultural property that permits agricultural uses, which would include the keeping and raising of horses and other livestock. There is not currently a groundwater overlay protection district for the city of Wautoma, thus alleviating my issues on behalf of the city. I would like to comment just with regard to the Freudenthals. The city of Wautoma has been notified regarding this conditional use, as notice was sent out to the city. Also, everyone within 300 feet of this property has also been notified. So I believe that in terms of notification to surrounding land uses and landowners, I believe that's been satisfied.
Any more?
Nope, that's it.
Is there anyone that's signed up to speak in favor?
There's nobody registered?
Is anyone speaking against?
No, sir. Oh, well, did you fill out a form, ma'am? No, you just read our letter. Oh, okay. There's a form outside that should have been filled out. So, okay.
Linda Freudenthal. We are, my husband Tim and I are property owners directly east of this parcel. And we submitted that letter. And I just want to address the board and say that our intent is just to be good neighbors, and we do want to get along with our neighbors. We do have a water diversion problem, and we do want it to be addressed. We also want our lot line to be addressed. We also want it to be noted that we are not opposed to the boarding horses if these issues are addressed. Thank you.
Anyone to speak for information? No one?
You'll get a rebuttal in a minute.
Any staff comments?
Yes. The applicants Norman and Susan Hammonds are requesting approval of a conditional use to establish horse boarding and a riding arena with lessons utilizing the existing 64 by 110 arena with the attached 64 by 36 and 36 by 36 stable boarding area within an AG General Agricultural Zone District. Construction out there originally began in 2009 with a lean-to for the horses, but has since expanded with subsequent additions and creations of stalls between 2011 and 2015. The arena that is subject in that to part of this request, and that was constructed in 2017. Said arena was to be for personal uses only, quote unquote. That was per the land use permit. It was in October of 2017 that our office received a report of horse boarding, lessons, and training at the subject property, and as a result, we notified the owners of the need to receive the appropriate approvals. We have also informed the applicant at the time that they should meet with the building inspector for commercial codes should they come into play once they receive approval of a conditional use. Committee visited the property on Wednesday, April 18th, at the recent on-site and noted that the public will not be riding nor have access to the owner's horses, that private lessons are being provided to the general public, and that typically the public will bring their own horses and load and unload the horses toward the hayfield at the rear of the property. It was also noted that there will never be more than 20 horses boarded, 4 to 5 of which would be private boarders, that the horses are brought to the site for breeding purposes, and the westerly drive would allow patrons to access the site with plenty of turnaround space on site with no backing out onto Highway C. For the record, just like any conditional use, and that we do have within each specific zone a list of permitted uses and also a list of conditional uses. With regard to livestock being raised on the property, that is a permitted use. What is questioned tonight is whether or not boarding would be permissible, and boarding would fall underneath a conditional use. But just for the record, livestock grazing of animals is permissible within an AG zoning district, and we don't have anything over 5 acres. We do not put restrictions in terms of the head of livestock. Staff has reviewed this request and believes that boarding of horses and riding lessons on the property within an arena to be an appropriate use within an AG general agricultural zone and is in keeping with the surrounding land uses. We're therefore recommending approval of the conditional use to establish a horse boarding and a riding arena subject to the conditions listed within your report.
If there's any rebuttal by the applicant, please come forward.
Sounds good. I mean, it's really, you can tell a professional wrote it, but there's a lot of stuff that's not true in here, you know. I never told them it was only going to give them 2 or 3 horses in that one field. And when we bought the property, we bought it from them, and they went and dug 4 ponds, and they took all that dirt and put it over there in that culvert where they said we covered it up. We didn't cover it up, they did. And all that drain flows into there. That's where the water's coming from. I could have had it fixed, but I wanted to be a good neighbor and just let it go, you know. We get it for maybe, we might get a flood in there maybe a total of 2 or 3 weeks out of the year, you know, where it gets high water. But the horses in there are just temporary right now, but they, you know, we try to communicate with them, but they won't even talk to us, so, you know.
In regard to that fence with the trees next to it, when we purchased the property, we ran a string. We located the corners and we ran a string so that we could dig the post holes along the string. And as soon as we had the string out, Freudenthals came out there and planted pine trees as close as 18 inches from that string. So with these trees growing, they're growing through the fence, and of course the horses are going to take advantage of these lush little green tips that are coming through the fence to eat. So yes, the horses have damaged some of their trees, but it's not their fault that they planted them 18 inches from the fence line. So I don't know what they were thinking, what happened to these trees when they were planted so close to the fence. And also as far as the drainage into their pond, there's an easement along our east property line back to the DNR, and there's been constructed a dike on that lowest spot where there would have been a possibility of some of our runoff going over to their pond. There's been a dike and a driveway constructed there, so there is no surface runoff. If there is anything that enters their pond, it would be through percolation down drainage as it percolates into the soil. So there really is no drainage going off that way into their pond.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. No, closing the conditional use portion, and we're moving on to zone change. Two Oaks North Incorporated, Watoma, Wisconsin, has made an application for a zone change in accordance with sections 58-131 through 138, 58-361, and 58-511 of the Waushara County zoning code from OP Park and Recreational to RS10 residential single family for an approximate 30-foot by 500-foot area that will then be transferred to 5 adjacent residential lots to increase the overall square footage of each lot within the shoreline area. Location on an approximately 0.34 acres of land lying immediately south of lots 57, 58, 59, 60, and 61 in the Two Oaks North Plat, Section 17, Township 189N, R11E, Town of Marion, Hills Lake, Cree Avenue.
Thank you. I'm Rusty Grimm from Two Oaks North Golf Course. As stated, we have a section of land roughly 30 feet and actually now by 600. I don't know if you...
Yeah, what I just handed out is the applicant has modified his request to incorporate one additional lot, 30 feet off of one additional lot, and that I believe is lot 56.
Lot 56, yes.
Yeah, so that's it, sorry.
And again, basically we have a 30-foot by now 600-foot section of golf course that really in the 25 years that we've been there has not been used. It's an area off of the course, but it joins these 6 lots. We're just looking at rezoning that to RS10 to be able to give that section of 30-foot by 100-foot section of land to each of those individual lot owners. That way it would be zoned RS10 for them to do, what they choose, on their lots there.
So you're not charging anything for them to...
Our plan actually is just, all we're looking at doing is the survey costs and whatever the deed costs are is divide that up amongst the 7 lot owners. Charge them that share, but to give them that section of land. I believe 3 of those 6 lots are owned by the realty company in the golf course currently. The 3 other lots, those lot owners have been maintaining that section of land anyway. So again, we're not per se charging them for the land other than what the fees are to make this all happen.
I don't have any questions?
To me, it looks like they're 30 feet deep, anywhere from 99.91 to 102.16.
Yes.
I think that's a pretty generous piece of property that's going to be added on to some of these others, because I know of people that have lived there before, and that was one of the drawbacks when they sold it, and now it's a feasible piece of property and a nice piece of property. Now, is this going to help the golfers any? Are they going to be able to hit a
It's
ball
actually,
straight?
we actually just followed the out-of-bounds stakes that we're using, that we've currently used for the last 15 years. So it, unfortunately, it won't help the golfers, but it won't hurt them any either. So
I just had to put that in there.
Currently, there's only one dwelling on any of the properties.
there's actually 2. There is one on lot 56, owned by Bill Adams. When we originally, when I had Trent Nelson do the surveying of this, we were looking at just lots 57 through 61. But since then, in speaking with Mr. Adams, it made sense to include that one. That's why that dwelling is not located on the plat of survey here.
Where them 2 owners agree about pitching in their share for the expenses?
Yes.
When do you expect this to be completely consummated?
I believe somewhat soon. I mean, assuming the approval of this, I think Trent had I don't know if this was official or not, but as soon as this got done, we would just quit claim deed those sections of land over to the landowners. So I would say in a relatively short amount of time.
Thank you.
Nope. You just ask for correspondence?
Is there any correspondence?
No.
How about anyone in favor that wants to speak?
Nobody's registered in favor, nobody's opposed, and nobody did not registered to speak informationally.
Okay. Staff comments.
Okay. The applicant, Two Oaks North, is requesting to rezone an approximate 30 by 600-foot parcel lying south of lots 56 through 61. You'll notice in the staff report in that it was originally 57, and obviously with this modification will include one additional lot. Subject properties were part of the original Two Oaks Golf Course and the Two Oaks North subdivision, which was originally approved in 1990 and platted in 1991. To date, only 2 of those 6 lots, which are part of the zone change request, have been developed. With regard to zone change, keep in mind that we are changing, and with the zone change, it is a permanent change, and that by changing the zone, you're likely changing not only the minimum lot size, but what also may be permitted on the property. Because of this permanent change, the review standards are quite high, and the application for zone change are reviewed by 3 bodies. It will first go before the Planning and Zoning Committee. It will then go on to the County Board of Supervisors, and then ultimately the Town Board for review of this application. In order for the zone change to take place, they have to be approved at all 3 levels. Staff has reviewed this request and feels that it's in keeping in keeping with the surrounding land uses, and also the deeper lots should help improve not only the saleability but also the constructability of each lot. When we were doing our on-sites, we did notice that the existing dwelling lot on lot 58 had a relatively short backyard. This will obviously expand that, providing a much greater setback. But staff is recommending approval, subject to those conditions listed in your report.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any rebuttal? Anybody that's getting the land want to say you don't want it? Okay. Next is tabled from the February 15th, 2018 public hearing. Charles L. Stewart, Madison, Wisconsin, has made an application for a zone change accordance with sections 58-131 through 138, 58-451, 58-481, 58-4, today, get it yet, 58-541 of the Waushara County Zoning Code from AG Agricultural to RS 20 Residential Single Family and AR Agricultural Residential for the purpose of creating 6 lots ranging in size from 0.53 to 1.26 acres and 1 existing lot approximately 0.61 acres to be zoned RS 20 and 1 parcel approximately 7.12 acres to be zoned AR, of which was amended to create 7 lots each approximately 1 acre in size. Division constituting a major subdivision county preliminary plat will be required, followed by state plat. Location, the north, the approximation 8.45 acre portion to be zoned RS 20, residential single-family lying approximately 735 feet north and east of Cree Avenue, and the remaining southerly 7.12 acres to be zoned AR agricultural residential, except Lot 1 of CSM number 3982, the entire area being approximately 15.27 acres being part of the government Lot 8, including part of the land vacated in Hills Lake subdivision, lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 of CSM 6485, Section 8T, Town 18 NN, we'll get it, R11E, Town of Marion, Cree Avenue. I made it. Now I see why Mark was sitting over here.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Charles Seward.
You got his name right. Spelled right? Okay.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about what you're doing now on this? And
Yes, yes. Almost 7 years ago, my wife and I purchased from Mrs. Pludeman the 15 and a half acres that had been in their family for 3 generations. We had worked through a lot of the dead wood that was there from the oak wilt and the storm that came through right before we purchased it in, 2011, I think. And we started preparing it when people started asking us if we would consider cutting up the property into smaller lots. This last year, we went ahead with the help of Amy and the zoning department to create a 4-lot CSM, take that 15 and a half acres and put it into a 4-lot CSM. 2 lots were small on the south of Mr. Pludeman's cabin that he has there, and then one more lot, lot number 3 was to the north, and then the balance of the 15 acres was a large lot number 4. We put lots 1 and 2 up on the market for sale. They each had 66-foot strips all the way back down to Cree because they needed to have 66 foot on a town road. Most of the people who looked at the lots didn't want a 700-foot long driveway for reasons you've all aware of this week. So we started entertaining the idea of putting in a road or negotiating for the sale of lots 1 and 2 that are on the water and telling people that we would consider putting in a road all the way up to within a couple hundred feet of the water at our expense. And that's what we did. We found 2 buyers for lot 1 and 2. We negotiated with both of those buyers. They're both here this evening. The agreement was that we would install the new road called Kula Way all the way up with a cul-de-sac, again with the help of zoning and planning and Town of Marion and anybody else that was involved in that process. The commitment to the buyers of lot 1 and 2 is that we would have the road in by, I believe we committed to September of 2018 for them. And because the road was going to go over part of the property that they owned all the way down to Cree, the agreement was is that when I get the road in at my expense, then they deed those strips back to me as part of the deal. We got the road done and installed 9 months in advance of the date. We got it in November of last year, so we were way ahead of the commitment that we made to both the Junos and Molloy. And then we started dealing with the zoning department about, or excuse me, I guess the first thing that came is that with the road, with the new road that we have, that the town of Marion has accepted under resolution, you have a copy of it, 17-04, I believe it is, with them accepting the road, Kula Way, it makes lot number 1 and 2 non-conforming for AR, or for ag, correct? Is that what started the, it dropped it below, each of those lots below an acre, excuse me, yeah. So then we had to rezone lots 1 and 2, or apply for rezoning for lots 1 and 2, so those were conforming lots. And at that same time, working with Amy and Todd, and it was, okay, we want to do all of the water, all the lakefront lots, RS20, because that is in keeping with the Town of Marion, Waushara County Comprehensive Plan 2025. If you look at the book and if you look at the chart, the entire 15.5 acres that we have in the comprehensive plan, the Town of Marion, Waushara County want to see that residential. That's what they wanted to see for whenever they started that in, I think 96 is when that took effect. Working with Todd and Amy, we modified the zone change from for the only one large off-water lot, because to make it into 7 1 acre plus lots, because the cost, why do it twice, I guess is what the feeling was. Why go through it once to have 6 on the water and 1 large off-water lot? Why not do it all at once? And because it's a major subdivision anyway. So we came up with the layout that you see in front of you. I submitted the preliminary plat so many times that Todd probably ran every time I sent him another one, but he was kind enough to review. He said he was willing to review it, to tell me if, and my surveyor to tell me if there's anything else that zoning wanted to see on the preliminary plat. You will note that we have done absolutely nothing to, you'll see in the middle of our property, there's that little sliver that Mr. and Mrs. Klein own. It's 50 foot by 300 foot. That was the only remaining lot of the Hills Lake subdivision that was created in 1927 or 29. It's been in the Klein's family for a long time. I believe Rich got it from his aunt when she passed about 20 years ago. You will notice in there that there is nothing, that we are not taking away any easements that Rich and his family have to get from his property to the water. He has an lake access easement because back then all of these lots were given lake access over an area or through an area that was called the Commons, that was vacated back in, I don't recall what the document was, 1996? 95. Okay, thank you. We have also offered Mr. Klein a replacement easement for what he has on record to get to his lot. And where he has the easement that is on record is to get to his lot through up Pine, old vacated Pine, and over west vacated Maple. That has never been passable. Not a tree has been cleared. You can barely walk through that way. The way that Mr. Klein has been in the 7 years that we've owned it, has been accessing his lot, is along the overhead power line that you will see there, where it says, I think it's marked as proposed easement. It goes diagonal from the cul-de-sac to his skinny lot. We have offered that to him. Rich and I met on site last week. He asked me to have our surveyor flag exactly where that proposed easement that is shown there is on site. My surveyor, who's here with me tonight, and he can answer any questions that you have, has staked it out. I'm not sure if Rich has had an opportunity to get out there and view it yet with the weather that we've had this week. But I have asked Rich to, I have said, I will give you this easement, which is basically over the area that you've been using to access your property, in exchange for you vacating what you've never used. It's been impassable. It's through the woods. I have asked, I've been in contact with many of the neighbors. Many of the neighbors I know have written letters of support for the subdivision. These are neighbors that live abut and are within 300 feet of the property. I have also been in contact with, and the first time I called the DNR regarding the wetland in our area was April of 2017. I have had them on site, and we have had no less than probably 75 to 100 emails, telephone calls, and Todd has seen a lot of this correspondence, including the Army Corps of Engineers. They have also been involved. We have not done anything, and we have been very proactive in reaching out to see what needs to be done as it pertains to that wetland. It turns out that we relocated one of the lot lines that we originally had going down, like the lot lines were originally designed back in 1927, right straight through the middle of the wetland. That is, by the way, where Rich's Klein's easement is to get to the water. It goes right through the middle of the wetland. Obviously means it's a walking, walk to the water through the water. But after the delineation was done by the DNR, and you have a copy of that in the record. Excuse me, it's shown on the plat. That's right, it's shown on the new plat. And after I got the letter from the Army Corps of Engineers, there's an extremely small section for lot number 6 that will be impacted, but the Army Corps of Engineers, and again, Todd has a copy of that letter, has stated that it is permissible for us to do that. What is questioning yet is what, if anything, someone would have to pay the DNR to be able to put gravel in an area where there's black dirt now because of the passing of AB 547, which is the new wetlands bill that they signed in just 2 weeks ago. Nobody knows what, if anything, they're going to charge for something like that. I think that's about it. I mean, what we're doing with the preliminary plat is exactly what Comprehensive Plan 2025 wants to see, which is residential zoning for that area.
Has the DNR made any data to you or anything stating that they're going to allow cleaning up the wetlands down there? Or is it just going to stay wetlands and from lot 6 and 5 you have to go through it?
Oh, no, you don't have to go through the wetlands to get to lot 6 and lot 5. If you want to put a road in on the west side of lot 6, there's the calculations that we did with the Army Corps of Engineers after the delineation map was done and the surveyor, Kevin Badgerland Surveying put it on the preliminary plat there. This is a small enough of an area that it ends up being about 250 or 240 square feet, that the Army Corps of Engineers says that we are permitted to go ahead and do that if we wish to. They said, I recommend, because of the law change that just came through, and I don't know what AB 547 that got converted to bill, or to, is it 108? Do you know?
No, I think it's like Act 307, so 306 or 307.
Okay, all right.
It's still going through the process.
The DNR has said to me, and again, Todd has a copy of this in the file, but even last, I believe it was December, maybe it was January, but Sarah Atkins from the DNR, who heads that for 700, the most that we would be charged if someone wanted to put a huge road through would be $700 application fee, and it would be granted. And that, with the change of the new AB 547 being signed into law, they don't know if that's even required.
We have a lot of new board members on here, and one of the questions that I want to raise, and we were going back and forth today with emails, and that, have you ever received a formal wetland delineation and approval of said wetland delineation from the DNR? We have yet to receive in that. I know Sarah Atkins and Ted Nedved have been out there, and they've staked and supposedly those flags have been transposed onto the plat, but we've never received a formal delineation from the Corps or from the DNR. And that's something that will be required
Okay,
in that
yeah,
prior
I put that.
5 and 6.
I'm looking to my surveyor because he would, when the information was, when the DNR did their delineation, the actual DNR did the delineation on site. That was Sarah and Tom Nedlin. Tom Nedlin is the head, he teaches delineation in the state of Wisconsin. He did the delineation. Within 24 hours, those points were converted and put on your preliminary plat there.
Typically, though, and I've contacted them, and I haven't received anything from them yet, but typically they'll provide us with basically a delineation, an approval of a delineation. They'll explain exactly what was delineated, when it was delineated, and whether or not it's been approved. And I'm just saying, we have
Okay, that's
we've yet
news to
receive
me.
that.
No one ever, I didn't,
All right. But
Has anyone asked you in regards to the floodplain question, which would be germane to your property and for the owners?
The floodplain is shown on the preliminary plat. We've met with,
yeah, the floodplain actually is on this property is actually adjacent to Little Hills Lake, and it is shown on the plat. It has been delineated.
oh, okay, yes.
Okay, my other question would be, how are you going to present to all the new property owners a survey of the new proposed road that you have coming in?
It's not a proposed road. It is an existing road that's been adopted by the town of Marion. Cooler Way. Okay, so it's on, and it's shown on there.
Okay.
Oh, okay. There's not another road is what I'm saying.
Okay. My purpose of thought for asking this is that my experience over the years working with surveys for properties, that the owners should be given a copy of the survey of the whole program that you have, so that people know where the break-offs come.
Yeah, very exactly. Todd asked me to distribute that to Guy Lapine, who's here tonight, outlot number 1. He's the owner of that. Nancy Malloy, the full lot number 1. She's here tonight. To Bob, thank you, Bob Juneau, the owner of lot number 2. Charles Pludeman, who's not in it, he owns property that we surround. But all of those letters were sent out, and you should have gotten a copy back saying that we, as owners of this property in this subdivision, are in full agreement of it. That is in your packet, correct? Isn't it, Todd?
Carl, we've received letters from all subject property owners.
Thanks.
My other question would be,
I apologize. With the exception of Mr. Klein, he is not, well, and he is not part of this rezoning.
No.
Lot 1 of CSM.
my other question would be, is there a lake management district in that area? Now, are they going to receive a copy of that also?
They have. They were, yes.
We've sent notice to them, but we haven't received any comment from them.
Because I've gone through some experiences where you have changes in lake management personnel, records seem to get lost. And I hope that it sounds like we have a pretty good handle on the zoning here, and that it will be kept under wraps, so that in the event that somebody comes up with a question, that we can answer it with some intelligence. And just by listening to what you mentioned this evening, I'm very happy that you have taken the time out to analyze and set forth the proper tone amongst the people that you're working with.
Thank you.
And that makes a big difference. And that's all I have to say right now on this issue. And thank you much for your time.
Can I ask a couple?
Yes.
I don't see where you give access, a road access to lots 5 and 6.
Yes, if you look there, sir, Lot 6 comes off of the north end of Cree, where Cree goes north and south. It's a 66-foot cut, all right? And Lot 5 goes right up to the cul-de-sac, the southwest corner of the cul-de-sac, about the 10 o'clock position. Lot 4 gets it at about 12 o'clock position, okay? All 40-foot cuts, as per required on a cul-de-sac, and 66-foot on Cree. Yes. Yes, it is. Absolutely. It's all there. Yep. All people have to do is hook up.
So the intent for lot 6 is to access off of Cree?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's, and lot 5 is gonna come out of that cul-de-sac?
Yes.
Because I noticed 3 and the existing Pludemans, they're sharing a drive?
Yes, yes, because Mr. Pludeman has had from his father and mother, he had an easement to come down through the area, which is now lot number 2, Mr. Juno's driveway. So we moved it off of Mr. Juno's, and I took it on to lot number 3.
The reason I asked that, we actually walked the property
Okay.
yesterday. And not knowing exactly where lot 6 access Cree, it looked like a pretty tough access, to put in a driveway.
Oh.
And so I was wondering if 5 would share a drive with 6.
That would be up to them if they wanted to do it, right? Although lot 5 comes around the east side of the wetland. If you see there, we jogged the lot line between 5 and 4 to come around to the east, so there wouldn't be any disturbance of the wetland for the driveway of lot number 5.
And all hurdles as far as Kula Way being recognized by the town of Marion?
We've received a draft, so we are going to need the formal resolution. We've never received a formal resolution. We've received the draft.
So what I gave you, Todd, is not the stamped?
Correct. We're going to need ultimately, and that prior to land use permits and things, it'll be conditioned.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I got from when I went over the morning of the last hearing, and I got that from the town of Marion. That's what they handed me. I think it's because the chairman was on vacation.
Okay.
Yeah, he couldn't sign it. He was on vacation. The other thing I wanted to add, if I could, having to do with utilities. Silver Lake is already there. All the hookups, the plumbers, the two plumbers who have been on site have no problem with hooking up. They're going to do directional boring. There's not going to be, they're going to go right up underneath the wetland, whatever they have to do. They do a lot of that directional boring now, 8 feet deep. They don't touch any of the above ground trees and stuff. I think as Todd and I had discussed earlier, that I've met with Alliant Energy, which is the other easements that would be necessary to get in, and we have, I have worked with Mark from Alliant Energy, all of the easements for lot to get power off of Cree underground to lot 6 and lot
There's
5.
2 and 3, and then 5 and 6.
Thank you. And also with that, worked out a way with Alliant Energy to get rid of this troublesome overhead line that everybody loses power over probably 5 times a year, and pull it out and get underground, and also give Mr. Klein across our property underground power to his property to replace the overhead that's there as well. So the utilities are all taken care of.
I have one more
Yes.
question.
Yes.
On the prior plat, you had shown out in front of Pludeman's property, which I believe is part of Lot 4, there's a small little fingerling island.
Yes.
That goes out, that was originally part of the Pludeman lot, or you were proposing to put that as part of the Pludeman lot. Is that, and now that's gone, is that now going to be part of Lot 4?
Okay, lot 4, on the current plat, the lot to the north of Pludeman is lot 3 now.
Okay, Lot 3,
Yes,
I
okay,
apologize.
no
Lot 3,
problem,
there's
no
1,
problem,
2,
I know.
Pludeman, and Lot 3.
Confuses me too.
Yep, so there's that fingerling island, so that's
Right.
now part of Lot 3.
Right. I have given Mr. Pludeman an option to purchase that finger. It remains part of Lot 3, but he has an option to purchase that. Okay? We were thinking about doing it before the subdivision, but there were other reasons not to do it before the subdivision. One of the things it did is it included Mr. Pludeman's property then in the subdivision, and I didn't see any reason to do that. Did that answer? Okay.
Any more questions? Do we have any correspondence?
We do. We have several emails. They're all relatively short. Received April 9th from Guy Lapine. Waushara County Planning and Zoning Committee, please be advised I am a neighbor in favor of the application for the subdivision called Little Hills Estates. Thank you, Gary Lapine. April 10th, received from Nancy Malloy. Please be advised that I am a neighbor, in favor of the application for the subdivision called Little Hills Estates. I am the owner of Lot 1 on the new town road named Kula Way with 6 waterfront lots that are being rezoned RS20. Received April 12th from Lee Weiss. Please be advised that I am a neighbor in favor of the application for the subdivision called Little Hills Estates. April 15th from Thomas Stoddard. Please be advised that I am a neighbor in favor of the application for the subdivision called Little Hills Estates. I've been coming to our family cabin on Little Hills Lake for nearly 60 years. The cabin at W6528 Cree Avenue was owned by my great uncle, Tom Cessna, and after his passing, my family purchased it. We have had direct ownership and utilized it nearly every weekend for the past 40 years as well. I believe the addition of 6 waterfront lots that are being rezoned RS20 is a wonderful idea for the lake. Mr. Seward, has had the existing residents' best interest in mind and has been extremely professional. Received April 16th from Gene Stoddard. My husband, Bert Stoddard, purchased the cabin at W6528 Cree Avenue from the estate of Thomas Cessna. Uncle Tom and his wife Goldie spent many years at Little Hills Lake. Eventually, he sold much of his land and lots in the area surrounding his home and cabin. Upon the death of Goldie and then Tom, his home was purchased by Bob Lair, and the cabin was purchased by Bert and Jean Stoddard. The property is now in a trust. As a neighbor, I am in favor of the application for the subdivision called Little Hills Estates. Thank you sincerely, Jean. Received April 17th from Brad McKenzie. I see that Mr. Chuck Seward is on the agenda again for April meeting. I would like to once again be on the record for supporting the zone change petitioned for, as well as subdivision application, assuming it meets all the legal requirements of the town. Please consider this email my vote of support. Received April 17th from Charles Pluteman. I am a neighbor that will be surrounded by the proposed Little Hills Lake subdivision as presented by Charles Seward, and would like to state that I am not opposed to this proposal. Mr. Seward has adequately addressed my easement requirements. And lastly, from April 18th, received from Mike and Connie Corin. Chuck Seward has purchased a beautiful piece of property in a great recreational part of Watoma. We love the idea of Little Hills Estates being near our home. The lots provide a wonderful setting for additional homes that we're sure will be well kept by good people. We believe that our new neighbors will strengthen the bond that already exists among those who live in the Fairview Place condominiums. Connie and I are very interested in purchasing one of these lots if the opportunity arises. We see nothing but positives coming from the establishment of the Little Hills Estates subdivision. Mike and Connie. That's all.
Is there anyone to speak in favor?
We do. We have several registered. First would be Tom Stoddard, to speak in favor.
I was actually, my mother's Jean, who also wrote a letter. We're down in central Illinois, but my great uncle lived after World War II in the cabin I talked about that was discussed, and then he built the house that Lear's Bob and Carol lived in. Then now Scott and Julie, their daughter, and Scott live in that now, and then Lear's have built a house since then on the same property my great uncle owned. This gives you some ideas. Actually, my fiance Nancy Malloy is the one that purchased lot number 1. And if you look back, I had my mom look at this. And this is 1964. A survey done in 1964 from my great uncle. And that is the lake lot right there. This is the Pine Street, which has been basically taken off the map now. And the lakefront land company, Hills Lake Subdivision is right here. And the lake, these are the lots that exist right now, currently, up to the cul-de-sac on the east side. And the lake lot that we are purchasing right now was actually owned by my great uncle, and then Pluteman's purchased from them. So we're wanting to build on there. So anyway, thought I'd share that. Okay. So I appreciate your help and making this all happen for everybody. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Charles Pluteman to speak in favor.
I don't have anything to add to the email.
Okay. Next, Nancy Malloy, speak in favor. Okay. And we have registered only in favor of the applicant but not to speak is Mark Wazielewski. Sorry. Okay. Registered only in favor of the application but not to speak is Wendy Wazielewski. Okay.
Do we have any that are against it?
Yes. Do we have a Carl Vandendahl to speak in opposition? Oh, okay. And a Tom Demir to speak in opposition? Demire? Sorry for the botching of the name. It's getting late.
Well, I was here a couple of months ago when we had the meeting, speaking as opposed to it. We've owned a property directly across the lake from the Pluteman property for 25 years and built a home there in 2000 and then moved up. I'm a conservationist, an environmentalist, and that property has been the treasure of Little Hills Lake. Everyone on that lake treasures that property for what it is. whether it's bird sanctuary, fishing habitat, whatever. This proposed development is going to ruin that. I look at it several times a day right out my window. The area is very environmentally sensitive. There's a very steep grade going down to the lake. Have you all been at the property? Well, most of the property has a very steep grade down to the lake, and there are wetlands in the area that collect water that would normally run off that property, allow it to seep. Some of it goes over to Deer Lake through a culvert there. The rest of it seeps down and feeds our lake. Back several years ago, I think it was Central Sands, that did we were worried about nitrogen, phosphate pollution in our lake, and we paid company to come out and do a survey on what water was actually feeding our lake. It's all seepage. There's basically no runoff from anywhere. Consequently, our phosphate levels are about as low as they can be, which phosphate encourages algae growth and things like that. So it's really a very clear algae-free lake. Disturbing that, allowing more runoff into the lake because of the impervious surfaces that new homes and development of that property is going to it's going to produce runoff into the lake. It's also going to affect Deer Lake because of the runoff from that property that goes there without the use of that wetlands. And there's no way that I can see that property can get developed as proposed without disturbing that wetland. It's just too sensitive. You say you have seen the property, so that's good. I just scratched up a bunch of notes. Any decision you make on this property will not possibly affect us right away. In time, it will affect our lake. We have people on our lake that do chemical testing, temperature testing, oxygen level testing, water level testing, volunteers from our lake that do that several times a year, and that's all recorded with the DNR. And this is kind of a thing with a development like this, destroying the natural treasure that we have there now. These effects may not show up for many years, but we as environmentally sensitive people are very aware of what can happen on down the line. I know I can't control what's done with the property, but I just want to make sure that it is done properly. And as far as I know, I've seen some communications between zoning and DNR, and the buck keeps getting passed back and forth, and I don't know who's given approval on anything yet. So that's my concern. One thing I heard mentioned was in previous your recommendations, one of the things you consider is decrease of property value. Are you affecting the people around you? Are you affecting the property, the value of their property? If this development comes in, I know that all of us on the lake will see a decrease in our attractability of our property. Not that I'm planning on selling, but it will definitely affect every other lot that's on the lake. That's about all I can say, other than just keep in mind what's going on here. We have a treasure. All these lakes in the whole county are treasures, and we have to guard them. Been a long time since loons have been here. So hang on to what you got. Thank you.
Anyone speak for information only?
Yes, I have Richard Klein up here to speak for information only.
Good evening. It's been a long evening, hasn't it? It's been a long one for me, too. You know who I am? I'm that little skinny piece of land in the middle that has been in my family for 90 years, from my uncle to my brother to my mother to me. And fortunately, I've been blessed to have lived there in the middle of paradise, or not lived there, excuse me, gone there, been there in paradise for a lot of years. Now, I understand that paradise is passing, you know, and but I feel blessed to have been there. I don't have much to say at this time because there is a separate plat portion that will come, so a lot of my comments relate to the plat. I understand why you're doing this. I don't recognize many of your faces, some I do, but I understand why this is happening and keeping in, you know, it's zoning of the lake and the properties. I didn't expect that there would be 13 lots there. In fact, I never expected there to be more than one because I was told Mr. Seward was going to retire there, but things change. I just have a quick question. So Coolaway has not been accepted but will be accepted?
And that, my understanding
Because it's
is
still
that-
20th Road today.
Correct.
Right.
And my understanding is that it'll have to go through the process.
So it is not accepted yet.
As far as, we have never received any official formal documentation that says that it's been accepted by
So it's not
the town of
accepted,
Marion,
at least as of now.
as of today.
A couple comments. Mr. Pluman talked about my easements, which, if you look, I have a map here. If you don't know where they are, I don't have the color-coded one, but my easements touch 6 out of the 13 lots. All of the lake lots are touched by my easements, whether it's going to the lake or from Maple. I wanted to correct something Mr. Seward said. He said my easement reads I come up Pine to Maple. My easement reads Maple to Pine. And it's clearly stated on the easements if you don't have a copy of it. But I do have the right to come in from Maple. In fact, it's listed first on my easement. The easement that was granted by Charles Pluteman's father, Dr. Pluteman. I've never had any problems with accessing over the power line. It's a natural access. In fact, I was told to use it by Charles Pluteman's grandmother, who told me not to cut maple. And I didn't cut maple because I've never needed to cut maple. I still reserve the right to cut maple, and I don't want to because I respected the conservancy of the land. And why would I, since I had permission of Mr. Seward, Mr. Charles Pluteman, Paul Pluteman, and his grandparents. So that's why I didn't. He's offering me an easement for me to vacate my approximately 18,000 square foot easement surface for approximately an 1,800 square foot easement surface, which would necessitate cutting more trees. He, by his own admission here tonight, said that you should have a 40-foot easement onto a cul-de-sac. He's offering me 12 feet with a 90-degree turn. I don't know if you saw it. I can't quite understand how it lays exactly, but at any rate, he's offering me a 12-foot easement to vacate 40-foot by 450 feet or something like that. And I've rejected that. He continues to offer it to me, and I don't know why he continues offering it to me, except to perhaps show that he is in the process of negotiation. But it's not good faith negotiation. We made him a proposal through my lawyer, Tom Lawrenson, which he never even answered, never responded to, except in a letter from his lawyer where he threatens to sue me for those easements, and I will defend. I think that's all I have to say for now. Other than that, I'll be back up when we deal with the plat, and it'll be interesting to see which plat it actually is, since I think there's been a number of plats, and this one is amended. I don't have a copy of it. I don't know if anyone has a copy of it. Perhaps you have. I hope you have a copy of the proposed plat, because I haven't seen it. And the first one I got, I couldn't read, and the second one I got, couldn't read either because it was so small. And in response to my lawyer's letter about that plat, a number of changes have been stipulated by the lawyer. I don't know if they're on the plat you have now, but I have a question as to whether an amended plat meets the requirements of being submitted in a timely fashion. So that'll be one of the questions I ask. Other than that, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. As I said, I understand why, zoning change is happening. I don't like it, but there's a lot I don't like in the world today. But I have to protect number one, and by that I mean lot number one. Thank you.
Okay, Carl Wienendahl?
Carl Wienendahl. I'm adjacent to Lot 6 on the Pluteman property. I thought we were going to have more answers here from Seward with regards to February's zoning meeting, but now we have more questions and issues to deal with. I don't know where to start with the deficiencies on this plat that I received in the mail.
I don't mean to interrupt, but we're not talking about the plat right now.
Or not.
We're talking about the zone change.
Well, it has to do with this, doesn't it?
There's another, Mr. Seward has two applications on the public hearing tonight. One is for a zone change, to change it from AR to RS20, and RS10.
RS20.
RS20.
Yep.
And the other is to discuss whether or not his preliminary plat should be approved. So for
This is a preliminary plat?
But if you're going to talk about the deficiencies in the plat, we need to talk about that with the plat application, and I'm not trying to be rude, I'm just trying to keep this moving along. So the deficiencies in the plat need to be talked about with the plat review. Right now, you need to talk about your concerns about whether it should be rezoned from the agricultural zoning to the residential zoning.
When are we talking about the plats?
Next.
What do you mean next?
He has two applications tonight.
There's two public hearings tonight. One is, first is the rezoning, and that whether or not the rezoning is appropriate. And then secondly, we'll talk about the preliminary plat and comments with regard to that.
It's all tonight, but I want to I want to keep the records clear, and I want to keep it moving so that we get to everything. But there's two different things that the committee has to decide
All
tonight.
right, well, okay. I guess I'll talk about the comprehensive plan, 2025. I've read that thing. It's basically everybody's, see where it's a Bible here. I'd like to reference chapter 1, page 24. Local residents have taken steps to identify and protect the area's most highly valued environmental and visual features, including its wild lakes and streams, wetland, and largest blocks of woodlands from rampant development. While new residential growth continues to occur in proximity to these features, developers and individuals are taking care to ensure that the results of their activities do not jeopardize the integrity of the resource. These efforts have not only helped preserve the rural character so valued by the local residents, they have resulted in improved water quality in the area's lakes and streams. It also states in chapter 3, page 15, given the importance of tourism in the county, protection of the area's natural resources is essential. It also states, chapter 5, page 11, loss of wetlands, which act as a natural buffer to filter nutrients and other pollutants, can be harmful to wildlife habitat, including endangered species, groundwater recharge. For example, when widening an existing residential street, how the widening of an existing road and possible elimination of existing trees will impact the aesthetics and cultural identity of the established neighborhood should be considered. I bring this up because we're always talking about the 2025 comprehensive plan and you want development. Well, this goes against development, and especially when you start boring holes in a wetland. And I do have, and I highly suggest you get this, I have the Deer Lake Management Plan, and in here, it talks about that wetlands, that culvert that will be directly affected. I also have, and I suggest you get it, Little Hills Lake Study. And this was done by the Board of Engineers, Army Corps Board of Engineers. I highly suggest you get it because it talks about that culvert, that wetlands. I do have the DNR wetlands delineation that I was sent that was sent to Mr. Seward. So I have that letter right here to Mr. Seward. A wetland is located in the review area. I too have talked, as of recently, April 18th, to the DNR. They are very concerned about what is going on. So I have all this documentation. I will defer now to the plat, whenever we get to the plat.
Staff comments?
Okay. As we're all aware that this zone change request came before the Planning and Zoning Committee back in February 15th. It was tabled, however, due to opposition and concern raised from several neighboring properties over the extent and delineation of the wetlands, erosion control upon future development of the lots, and access easements for the existing landlocked properties. Since that meeting, the applicant has revised the site plan preliminary plat to more accurately reflect the limits of the wetlands per field walks and comments from the DNR, has provided and illustrated an access easement for the Plutamans to more accurately overlay the existing driveway or current access way, and has met with staff to discuss erosion control and stormwater management for future construction of each lot. The applicant has also revised the plan to now show 7 one-acre lots upon the southwest quarter of the property. It should be noted there are still issues that exist with regard to both the lake access easement and the public access easements for the Kleins, but we'll discuss that in the next public hearing. I've read pretty much all the correspondence. Obviously, we went out to the property at our on-site on April 18th, and the committee felt that the rezoning request is consistent with the surrounding land uses and the comprehensive plan. However, they wanted to make sure that the preliminary plat accurately depicts all existing conditions and required notations. Once again, this is a rezoning request. It will have to go through the same 3 levels of approval: Planning and Zoning Committee, County Board of Supervisors, and the Town Board of Marion. Staff has reviewed this request and continues to believe that the zone change request is in keeping with this area and its surrounding land uses. The request is also in keeping with the comprehensive plan, which depicts the property as future residential. While there are still a few minor issues to resolve with regard to the preliminary plat and final plat, we strongly believe that these issues can be resolved at that time. We are therefore recommending approval of the zone change for 6 lots and 1 outlot from AG to RS20, and 7 lots about 1 acre in size each from AG to AR residential, agricultural residential, and subject to the conditions listed within your report. I would like to point out, we too are concerned regarding the existing and the natural extent of that property. We're concerned also about the wetlands, and I've been working also extensively with the DNR and also the Army Corps of Engineers. Some of the conditions that we have put in place and that we're recommending that be laid upon the property is that no land use or building permit shall be issued until such time that the zone change is approved. Prior to final plat, the applicant shall have a wetland delineation, performed to clearly illustrate the limits of the wetlands upon lots 5 and 6, and the findings submitted to the county zoning office. Individual stormwater and erosion control plans shall be submitted for lots 5 and 6 through land conservation for any land disturbance, including installation of driveways and/or construction of a dwelling, and that driveways shall be installed upon lots 5 and 6 prior to the issuance of a land use permit and building permit, including issuance of a wetland disturbance permit through the DNR if required. And then we're also asking for standard erosion control and stormwater management plans for the balance of the property. So we do have a number of things that are going to have to take place prior to any construction that occurs out on that property. We also have a litany of some other questions or comments and conditions, which will be read into the record should this go forward.
Is there any rebuttal by the applicant?
I think there are a few people that are here tonight that think that I'm going to fill in the wetland. It is beautiful down there. It would cost, if we wanted to create one of these type of scraped areas, it would probably cost $100,000. It's gorgeous. The sounds that come out of it when I'm there at night in the summertime are phenomenal. We are talking about, if you look on the plat, we are talking about a very tiny corner, southwest corner, approximately 240 square feet, just to get a driveway over the edge of the wetland. I'm not destroying anything. We even moved the as I mentioned earlier, the lot line between lots 4 and 5 to go around the wetland, so it didn't go through the wetland. Todd, the Town of Marion resolution 1704. Do you have a copy of it here?
I don't. I don't have a copy with me.
When you said that you hadn't received anything that stated, or someone said that, or I think you were asked if, by Mr. Klein possibly, or someone else, if it had been adopted, that's what I understood that document to be.
I have not received a formal, we haven't received anything formal.
When I brought that to you, I guess I'm surprised then that you didn't say that, when I delivered it to you 2 months ago.
Town of Marion will usually forward documentation to us.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to. Do I have to do anything to?
I will contact the Town of Marion.
Okay, thank you. Yep, that was it. Thank you.
Now we go to the public hearing, or to go back to the original. Now we have to go back to, this concludes this portion of the hearing, and now we're going to go to board discussion and recommendations. No, we have to go back to the very beginning, which was the Schroeder's. Oh, I'm sorry. You still. Sorry. I'm like, wait. Sorry.
Yeah. Next thing would be a preliminary plat. Charles L. Seward, Madison, Wisconsin, has made an application for a preliminary plat in accordance with sections 42-45 and 42-46 of the Waushara County Subdivision Code to create 6 RS-20 residential single-family lots with 1 outlot and 7 AR agricultural residential lots ranging in size from .53 to 1.49 acres. Zone change pending. Within the shoreland area. Location, the northerly approximate 8.45 acre portion to be zoned RS-20 residential single family, lying approximately 735 feet north and east of Cree Avenue, and the remaining southerly 7.12 acres to be zoned AR agricultural residential, except Lot 1 of CSM 3982, the entire area being approximately 15.27 acres, being part of the Government Lot 8, including part of the land vacated in Hills Lake subdivision, lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 of certified survey map 6485, section 8, town 18 north, R11E, Town of Marion, Hills Lake, Cree Avenue. Any or all of the above items will be viewed prior to the public hearing by the Waushara County Planning and Zoning Committee. Such review shall be done at the locations described above, Wednesday, April 18th, 2018.
I think I went through pretty much everything before on the plat. I don't know if there's anything else that I can add to what I went through. for the subdivision. When Mr. Veenendahl cited that some of the chapters or areas of the Comprehensive Plan 2025, where it starts out by saying that we have to maintain our natural resources and things like that, what they're stating there is that that's the reason. It's one of the reasons for the Comprehensive Plan 2025. So things don't get filled in, so things don't get overlooked. As I said before, we're not looking at needing to fill in the wetland area to build building sites, to create building sites. Both Lot 5 and 6 are each well over an acre. They could have at least 3,000 square foot homes built on 2 different areas on those lots without touching the wetland. There's only a small area of the edge of the wetland for a driveway that needs to be worked on, filled with gravel. And the Army Corps of Engineers is already sent me a letter. I copied Todd with it, stating that we are permitted to do so if we choose to go forward. The DNR doesn't know, as I mentioned earlier, they don't know yet what would be required to put a driveway in the edge of the wetland. I don't have much more to add.
Thank you. Next, any committee questions?
There's been mention of a culvert. I think we were at the site, we couldn't find it between the wetlands and Deer Lake.
It was flagged. It was flagged from right there along Cree. We went down and saw that, we couldn't see the actual culvert itself. I've looked at all public records too. There's nothing recorded in terms of any easements, like a drainage way easement. However, one thing that we will require as part of development for lots 5 and 6, because it will be applicable to lots 5 and 6, that's where the individual stormwater erosion control plan will come into play, is that we'll have to verify that any existing development and that everything properly drains and is basically essentially taken care of.
May I add something to that? I think I know where that culvert is. Like Todd said, it is flagged, but the water now just comes right over the road because there's no ditch there. Not much of a ditch. It just comes over the road if there's any water there. That's what I've seen.
But at any time, has there been a flag adopted to showing where that supposedly culvert is supposed to be? That's what I'm trying to trying to understand. Because
it's not on our property. It's on the town's property. The culvert is, and it's flagged. You said you saw the flag there?
There's flags on either side of Cree, but I couldn't locate the actual culvert itself, because it was buried under 28 inches of snow.
Oh, okay.
So what you're saying is that that's under county property?
That's on county. It's not on our property, sir.
Okay, that makes a big difference then. That clears a lot of...
It's not our, we're not
I've
touching
been pounding my brain here.
We're not touching the culvert.
Finding
No,
it, and I
sir.
can't find it. That makes sense.
And the preliminary plat that we're looking at now, the easement to the Kleins, is that the proposed easement we saw flagged off?
Yes.
Or is that the one that he's currently using?
It is, half of it is over the grassy area that he's currently using, and then it veers off to the south just a little bit because of the adjoining lot. We couldn't narrow up lot number 5 narrow enough, so it just comes off. It's basically half on the existing grassy area and half adjacent to that grassy area. And
This is your proposed easement.
To Mr. Klein, yes. And I also told him that any trees, I think I copied you with that too, Todd. Any trees that he would want me to remove, and there's a bunch of dead trees basically that need to be removed and a few other ones to use that are on that new easement. I would take care of that at my expense, no expense to him at all.
Any other questions?
So the easement that you're proposing to him is the same size that he has right now?
Basically, yes, except for the last 50 feet, yes. He's been, I don't want to use the word trespassing because the 7 years that I've used it, we've met on site, we've talked, we've worked, done jobs together. I've never stopped him from using that. I felt that I would allow him to continue to access his property over our property. I never said anything about trespassing. I never said anything about don't use it. To the contrary, as Mr. Klein said earlier, I said go ahead and use it. His recorded easement for the entire subdivision back in 1927, which was vacated, those roads were vacated. He retained that easement on paper, but has never used it. And I offered to Mr. Klein, I'll give you the easement over the area that you've been using in exchange for you vacating the other area.
Any correspondence?
No, there's no, we did receive 2 letters, both from utility companies. However, in your report, I'll have those specific items relating to easements that need to be shown on the plat. They'll be actually identified in the conditions.
Excuse me, Todd, how about all the other letters that I was told that were emailed to you in favor of the subdivision?
I read those as part of the rezoning request.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, all right.
Anyone in favor to speak?
We have nobody listed in favor.
Anyone that's against?
Yes, Mr. Veenendahl?
Like Mr. Klein said, I don't know what plat we're looking at. I guess 2 have been submitted. The one that was sent to me is what I'm going to talk about, all right? The deficiency on this. I guess this was drawn up by Badgerland. Well, there's no road on Lot 5 anymore. There used to be a road on one of Seward's TN land survey. There was a road that went in right here.
Mr. Veenendahl, the reason for that is on a preliminary plat, and that they're only required, the surveyor's required to illustrate all existing conditions. That road was there for illustrative purposes.
Going in?
That road that was going to Lot 5?
Yes.
That was for illustrative purposes only, so that we could see what impact it would have upon the wetland. But at the time of the preliminary plat, a surveyor is only required to show what are all existing conditions, existing driveways, existing homes, sewers, easements, so forth. Since that was a proposed roadway, we had it taken off of the preliminary plat.
Okay. So there's no sewer on here either? Is there supposed to be sewer?
There's sewer easements that are shown going to the Pluteman property, and then we will have additional easements that'll be shown at the time of the final plat.
Do we know if these pipes that were put in years ago have to be torn up?
That I don't know.
They probably don't meet code. I had 2 engineers take a look at, I happen to have a sewage waste pump, whatever you call it. What's it called? Lift station, in front of my house, for basically a 10-foot rise. I looked at this. It goes from 864 to 890. I hope the people on Lot 4, Lot 3, Lot 2, and Lot 1 know that there's going to be a lift station going in on Lot 5 somewhere on that beautiful hill. When you guys go out there, take a look at the trees that are just going to get raised on that hill. Now, 864 to 890, that's about 30 feet that this lift station is going to have to lift sewage. lift sewage up. My engineer said there's going to be a cost, they did an analysis, anywhere from $79 to $160,000 for a lift station. I'm going to use $105 as an average. It's going to take about, 2 lots, $99, billed quarterly, $792. It's going to take 133 years to recover the cost for our sanitary district to put that lift station in. I mean, I'm sure Mr. Siewert's going to pay for that lift station. That's going to go on Lot 5, and all the boring that's going to have to occur, especially if he decides to bore under a wetlands, which, this one is just that's a terrible plat. This was even worse. Now, this plat that I don't even know the number anymore, you can see the wetlands there, how small it was. Well, the delineation by the DNR came out, and they did that, can't even read it, 3/20 of 2018. That wetlands grew dramatically. So I suggest when you guys go out there, take a look at, how big that wetlands did become. And with all that snow, that wetlands is going to grow even more. So this plat, you guys requested 10 items be addressed here in the last zoning meeting. I see only maybe 4 have been met. That's 40%. 40%. It's an F in my book. He's got to do some more homework here for this plat to be passed. You said it was tabled. All these things had to be done. 4 maybe have been done out of 10.
To speak in, to appear and speak for informational only, Richard Klein.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak again. Like Chuck, a lot has been said, but I do want to go over a few points. I would like to ask if this is, again, I don't have a plat. I don't think anyone out here in the audience has the information you're looking at. So it's a little bit difficult for us to be as informed as we'd like to be. I understand that the preliminary plat was filed in a timely manner, but I also understand through communications with Mr. Siewert's attorney, Laniello, that they have stipulated some changes to that plat, and I'd like to know if those changes are on the plat you're looking at. Ma'am?
No. I have not received, I received a copy of the email that Attorney Laniello sent saying that this was in the works. I have not received a new plat since that letter.
So you're actually looking at the incorrect plat, is that correct?
No.
We are looking at the preliminary plat that was filed with the zoning office.
Correct.
Okay, then I will
There have been no
address.
further changes.
There have been no further changes.
There have been no further
Even though, as his letter says, this will be in the stead of those changes, it will stand. I'd like to read that or enter that into the record from Laniello. Addressed to you. You know what I'm talking about.
I got that letter.
He's willing to. I'm sorry that the surveyor left. Doggone it. I really wanted to. The plat you're looking at states in the notes that the location of the commons and my access are undetermined or unknown or unstated. Mr. Laniello has agreed that the lack of the lakeside monuments would be changed. You're looking at a plat that doesn't have my lakeside monuments on it, specifically for the purpose of Mr. Siewert to have ambiguous language entered.
Well, I would remind you, Mr. Klein, that this is a preliminary plat. Preliminary plats don't have everything that a final plat needs to have on it.
What about the things it does have on it?
But the committee is going to look at it to see whether or not it meets the requirements of the statute and the code for a preliminary plat, and then they'll make a decision as to what needs to be. If they agree that it meets the preliminary requirements, then they have to set forth what needs to be done in order for a final plat to even be considered for approval. Some of the issues between you and Mr. Siewert are not issues that this committee or
Yes,
the
they are.
county
Yes, they are.
going to decide.
Yes, they are.
No, we are not gonna decide. the
There's
case.
ambiguous language in there that Mr. Laniello has agreed to change and has not changed. I want this document record in the record.
And that's fine, that.
Is it in the record? Have you filed it in the record?
No, I have not filed the record. I am not the committee. It was sent.
Okay,
to
but it
me.
was sent to you, and you know that it exists, and he swore, his language states, excuse me, this, okay, I have the wrong copy here. There's been a lot of papers gone back and forth.
Have been, sir, but the committee can only look at the plat that they have before them. They can't
All right.
take into consideration.
All right.
information that's not yet filed.
Okay, so I will once again state that there are inaccuracies, improper markings on this plat that you are considering because the amended plat has not been filed. Again, I say none of us have the plat that you look at. I guess maybe I do because I don't have the correct one or the next version.
Richard, at the time of the final plat, you're going to have you're going to have an opportunity to not only review the plat, but you're also going to have to sign off on the plat because there's going to be easement language that's going to be applicable to your property, of which you will have to agree to either accept, or if you don't accept, then the final plat doesn't go anywhere.
Well, that sounds pretty good to me.
Well,
That's just the way it is.
That sounds pretty good to me. But you understand my concern. I'm sorry for being upset. Because he stipulated he would file it, he hasn't.
And he has not.
Okay, so thank you. And I hope you gentlemen will understand my concern, because I'm dealing with lawyers, and I've had to get a lawyer, and I don't like having lawyers. Chuck told me we don't need lawyers, but apparently I did.
I don't like lawyers either, for the record. Including myself.
Oh, come on.
but
Well,
Richard,
I would like to say that lawyers have helped a lot of people, too, and I think I've been helped, at least to get some peace of mind myself, to know that I'm not alone. I won't take much more time, but there is ambiguous language in your thing, language that states the commons, nobody knows where it is or how, we know where it is. There are monuments that were omitted at the lake that the surveyor omitted that have been on every plat going back to 1929. Mr. Laniello has agreed to add those to the next plat. They've also agreed to take out some language in the notes, which if you have a magnifying glass, you may be able to read. Took magnifying glass for me to read it, but it states that it's an unstated with my access. It's not. As far as the easement goes, I'll state publicly right now, I'll accept his 12-foot easement if he wants to give it to me, which I don't like because it'd be difficult to make a 90-degree turn, but I do not surrender my Maple and Pine Street access easements. So if he wants to just give it to me, I'll take it, but I will not surrender those unless he makes me happy, and he doesn't want to make me happy. And as far as the easement goes, a 12-foot is really not sufficient anyway because I have a buildable lot. Even though it's only 50 feet wide, it's grandfathered, it's buildable, it could be done, and zoning regulations call for a 40-foot access, and I have that on Maple, and that's why I want to keep that. Should my children or grandchildren someday want to build there, they would be able to use that. And again, I state that the reason he's so concerned is because, and I understand this, I mean, my easements touch your lot, and that's just the way it is. I'm willing to surrender that easement, but I have to be made happy too. I can't give up 18,000 square feet for 1,800 square feet and be happy. I won't. I'm almost done, honestly. Actually, I think I may be done. I'm concerned that those changes aren't on the plat you're looking at. I understand, Todd, that they will have to be addressed. They will be addressed either through the courts, or I have his letter stating that they swear that, or whatever the language is, that they will agree to that. So I can let go of that. But thank you for listening to me. I'm sorry it's been such a long night.
Richard, I just wanted to make one point. The reason why the attorneys were going back and forth regarding more revisions to the plat. I wasn't going to have more revisions made to the plat that weren't agreed upon by both parties. So, you know, I didn't want to muck up the plat as it was. That's going to have to be worked out prior to final plat. And
Well,
the
I
final
hope it
plat
is.
will not proceed forward until such time that you guys come to some agreements.
Well, thank you. As I said, I can live with that. I hope that's the end of the evening.
Yeah.
All right, I'll try and keep this real brief. We have an application right now for a preliminary plat to create a total of 13 lots and one outlot, 6 lots, and an outlot of which will be zoned RS20, and then 7 lots that are zoned AR agricultural residential. As you can hear, we've been going through an array of revisions, you know, now for probably the last 2 months. Staff does have the concerns of all residents and the adjoining landowners, adjoining land uses, all at heart. We've been working very diligently with corporate counsel, to attorneys, to existing landowners. I think that, you know, we do have the best interests of everyone in mind, and that's why we, with regard between the preliminary plat and the rezoning, I think based upon the conditions that'll be applied to all those properties, a significant amount of review and approvals are going to be required, and those are from a number of different governmental agencies. Staff has reviewed this request and believes the applicant has addressed the vast majority of the concerns and comments upon the preliminary plat. There are, however, several comments that need to be addressed at the time of the final plat. We have applied a number of conditions to which, but we are recommending approval of the preliminary plat to create 13 lots and 1 outlot, subject to the conditions listed within our report. I am going to just address just a couple of those concerns. At the time of the final plat, the discrepancy over the limits and extent of the commons area easement shall be resolved and agreed upon by both properties. Number 10, and like I say, there's a number of other conditions that have to do with utility easements and so forth that'll be applied to the final plat. But number 10, accurately depict the location of Lot 1, CSM 3982 access drive upon the final plat. And then number 11, provide an acceptable access easement for Lot 1 of CSM 3982 property to Kula Way. And the rest are basically conditions and comments pertaining to final plat criteria. That's it.
Thank you. Oh, need a roll call?
Do you want to ask for a rebuttal?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't want any rebuttal. Is there any rebuttal?
Come up to the podium.
There have been 2 different plumbers on site who specialize in installation of sewer. They gave me bids of $3,000 and $4,000 to install from the grinder at the house to the mains. So I don't know where Mr. Vienendahl's $100,000 is coming from. Thank you.
Okay. Roll call. Pat?
No, we need to now go into. Oh,
Roll call.
okay, I apologize.
We have to do that. We have to know we're all here. Okay. George?
Here.
Jerry? Carl?
Yes.
Mike? Yes. All right. Now we need approval of the agenda. Okay, is there a second? Motion made and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unfinished business? None. New business. Action on public hearing applications.
So now we'll go back to the first application that we discussed.